All right, we are live. I am doing a weird timed art stream for me. Usually I do these things. Hang on a second. I'm getting a message.
Yeah. Anyone who needs help? Anyone who needs help?
Cool. Okay, so I've messaged a few of my friends, like in the Artcasters community and stuff, just letting them know like they're welcome to hop on. So we might have some guests a little later. Right now, I think we have like 0 watchers, which is fine. And what I'm planning on doing is basically I have like a really busy day ahead of me. But I guess before I get into that, I should explain who I am. So I'm Joshua Kemble. I'm a cartoonist, illustrator, graphic designer. I'm a full-time art director. And often you're also going to hear a lot of noise in the background because my son Ben and my sister-in-law are like hanging out playing Minecraft because it's a Saturday. So you're going to hear Saturday noises during the stream, and that's okay. That's what we do. But anyhow, so what I also have to do today, so my goal for this live stream is going to be to finish inking this panel and ink this panel. And then what I have to do is go to a couple bookstores to bring copies of my graphic novel that I'll be doing after the stream. And I think we're joined by Scott Zirkland, so I'm going to throw him on. Hang on a second. Hold on, Scott. All right.
Hey, Josh. Can you hear me?
Good to hear from you, man.
Can you hear me? Oh, I might need headphones. Hold on.
Okay, cool.
Let me get my headphones.
No worries. Let me see here. And I'm going to change the brand just so that doesn't cover up Scott. All right, so let me see here. And then we'll just throw the little slide picture. All right, cool. So yeah, how's it going, Scott?
It's going good. Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm still. Wow. Okay. Hold on a second, because I'm still hearing it come. Oh wait, I gotta hit something here. Okay.
All right.
Hold on. All right. Say something.
Hello. Okay. How's it going, Scott?
Good. I was actually just watching one of your live streams while I was working on some stuff. I'm up here at my dad's place. He had hip replacement surgery, so I'm just kind of taking care of him for the week.
Oh, so, yeah.
And then, anyone that tuned into Artcasters, we kind of had a few snafus happen in a row.
Yeah, for sure.
Mike is our guest, but we're gonna do that same episode again next week or this.
Okay,
week.
Cool. Yeah, and then I'm gonna try to. I have a couple people I want to reach out to, but I still want to get Chris on to talk about LA Comic Con.
Yeah. Well, I'll host it again since I didn't get the host, and then next week you can. I think it goes back to you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then definitely.
So you're hosting next, and then I'll try to get Caligula for the next. If not, it'll be a surprise guest, but probably one of the people I met at LA Comic Con. So
cool.
Cool. I think it'll be cool. It's bound to happen. We've been doing that show forever. I'm actually, like I was saying, even during the stream yesterday, that it's just a testament to like how seriously we take Artcasters, that it takes a snowstorm and like a power outage.
It wasn't a snowstorm. The power just went off.
Oh, okay.
And it was so weird because it kind of hit you and you realize how much you rely on technology, because I couldn't even get a hold of you guys.
Yeah.
I'm right up where my dad lives. He's in this pocket where there's no cell service. So, any phone that you use up here is through Wi-Fi. So I couldn't call. Then I put on some warm clothes, walked out to the street to try to get reception, and I was getting no bars on my cell phone. And later I realized
Corey said something like you had driven. Like I somehow I heard a snowstorm in there, but he said you had driven.
No, it wasn't a snowstorm.
Just to call us.
Power outage. But I had to get in because I tried everything, and then I tried. Well, my dad has like a regular landline. And and there's a battery. It's a regular phone, and it charges on a charger, and so. And I thought, okay, I'll just use that. And I try to call, but it won't work because it's through Wi-Fi too, even though there's a battery, I guess. So
Yeah.
so then finally I'm like, okay, I got to drive to somewhere where I can get reception. So I drove to the nearest convenience store, and I passed it because there's literally no lights anywhere, no street lights. I missed it, and I turned back around, found it, got in the parking lot, and I still had no bars. And then I realized, you know what, I probably should reboot my phone, because sometimes when you go to a different place, it needs to reping or something like that. So once
Yeah.
I did that, then I had full bars and everything. And then I called Corey, and I also called my girlfriend, because she was going to watch the Artcasters, and she's like, and I was just like, what do I mean, how do I let you guys know that what's going on? So
Yeah, it's funny too, because I got that message that you'd sent from your phone like the next day, where it was like you were like, "Hey, I may not make it," So
yeah.
it worked out, and it was kind of fun. I've been enjoying these streams, and actually, so usually at the top, just for like people who are new or might be hopping on, especially on Twitch, like which I have like no followers on, but every once in a while there will be somebody who's like never seen it who hops on, so. At the beginning, I'll usually just kind of let them know a little bit about what this is about. So, and in these streams, basically, I work on my comics. I hang out with other art friends like Scott, and other people like whoever wants to kind of come on and hang out. And we just talk about whatever while we work on art. And today's stream is going to be a little interesting because I'm aiming to just get these two panels penciled and well, not penciled but inked. And then I have to go to some bookstores. Like I'm going to try to go to Vroman's in Burbank to like get them these advanced copies so I can start to arrange some book signings, which is kind of cool. And then Scott, this is weird, and I'm kind of curious if you've ever had this, but like this is the first time where my publisher wants me to go and meet the buyers. And then I like kind of establish contact with them. I get their contact info, and then Diamond Distribution reaches out to those stores and books and arranges the whole signing, which I was like, that is so awesome and legitimizing.
That's
like
cool.
Right?
Yeah.
Because I'm like,
no, I've never published anything traditionally like that, so I have no experience with that.
Yeah, and I guess what's weird is my experience with that has usually been like even with like my first publisher, which has a much smaller like marketing thing. Usually, I'll go to the store, establish the contact, like book the thing myself, and it's a really vulnerable experience because you feel like, like I know, and Scott, you know this about your own work. It's like we make good work. But it is like there is something like weird and kind of embarrassing for me always. Every time I go to like a comic shop, there's something weird where I'm like, do you want to carry my book? Like
yeah, and I haven't even done a lot of that. Like go to I think I went to my local one. I think it was just because they're so close to me and I introduced myself. But sometimes I'll just go into a comic store or whatever, and and just but
yeah, it's a weird experience like having that, but I'm excited about it, and like again, like it's something my publisher wants me to do, and I'm like, dude, I'm all about that. It's like groundwork, that's all we do as indie creators. Like we do our own legwork and promotion, so it's like it's exciting, but it's also nerve-wracking.
Yeah, and I'll probably do more of that. I'll do more of that once the story is complete and I have it collected in a single volume.
Yeah.
And I've talked about that before, where right now it's just kind of these are just sort of benchmarks. I obviously I'll run a Kickstarter and I'll sell it for anyone that wants to read it and stuff like that. But I don't like heavily promote it.
Yeah,
I plan to once it's complete. Just because.
Oh yeah, dude.
I don't know, when you're putting out floppies and when it takes you over a year to put out a single floppy like it does me.
Yeah,
I just kind of feel bad. Like I don't want to I'm pushing this thing out, but you're gonna have to wait a year for a 22 issue comic. So I don't.
Yeah, like Frank the other day was asking me for some advice on like how you choose like how many books you're going to bring to a con and whether you should bring prints. And I was telling him, I was like, you should bring prints if you're doing it. Like if you don't have a graphic novel, you're going to be underwater if you don't bring prints. Like it's this is just something I've realized. It's like part of why I didn't remember we had this conversation a long time ago about like two stories where I was going to originally release them as floppies. And then I just realized like, it's just, yeah. So I'm really excited actually, dude, because you're really close to done with with the Young and the Dead. Oh, we're joined by Gary Hodges. This is awesome. It's like a little Saturday hangout. Hang on, let me throw Gary on. But yeah, I'm excited about Young and the Dead. The last issue. And I'm also really excited about the trade, dude. Like, I think that's gonna open like so many possibilities, you know.
Yeah. Well, I still have one more issue to illustrate, but I mean, once I complete this one, but it's at least it's written. You know, the story's done, and I'm happy with the story and everything. So.
Okay, so since we're still at the top too, Scott, like Young and the Dead, this book that you're talking about, where can people get that, and where can they find your?
Oh, you can find both physical and digital copies at my website at circworks.com.
I love it. Okay, and then Gary Hodges, creator extraordinaire of Dinosaurs versus Marsbots, and not underwater dinosaurs. That's just a little shout out to like a conversation I had yesterday with Adam.
Oh, did he bring that up with you too?
Yes, and I'm fascinated by it. Although I totally don't buy it. I'm like,
no, it's a crank book, but I'm glad he's enjoying it.
I might get the book. Like, that's the thing about me. Like, I've said this a lot. Like, you know, a lot of the times when I converse with people, I'm very like combative. Like, I ask, especially if it's new information, because I just poke holes in things as I hear them.
Yeah.
But I also I love learning things, even things that I don't agree with that other people believe. I'm super, like, to me, that was one of the most fascinating things to hear about, because I was like, I've like literally never heard anyone make this claim.
No.
And so now I'm like, I have to get that audiobook just to be like, what is this? Like, it's kind of like a deep dive into anything. So I really appreciate him like sharing that and stuff.
Yeah,
like,
no, he brought it up. I was on Frank's show Monday. And no, 2 Mondays ago. He was on Frank's show Monday, and I was
okay.
And he brought up the book with Anna, because she's a dinosaur geek like me. And, I was familiar with it, and I was holding my tongue because I didn't want to be like the guy's not even a paleontologist. Like, don't go too far down that rabbit hole.
But I still want to.
It's fun.
I will go down that rabbit hole, as I do most rabbit holes.
Right.
How are you doing, Gary? Where can people find your work and stuff? I think right now they can only get your art book, right?
Yeah, I'm still sold out. I'm getting ready to do a reprint in February. So very soon. But in the meantime,
so right now you're like Good Charlotte as opposed to Minor Threat, right?
Oh wow,
that was a joke. Oh, just a bad joke. Sorry.
Every time I hear Good Charlotte, I think of I say every time someone mentions Good Charlotte, I think of the old David Spade line of like, you mean mediocre Green Day?
Yes.
But so the best places to find me right now are my YouTube. Under my name, Gary Hodges. And on Instagram, Dinosaurs vs Marsbots.
Awesome.
And then there'll be a reprint of both my comics soon as I work on the 3rd installment.
Cool. And how is work going on that 3rd installment?
I'm
actually curious. I want to hear from both of you guys, like what you're up to today.
Yeah, I'm kidding. So drawing officially starts page 1 on February. I have a date marked on the calendar. Let me look here. I'm just going to announce it to the world for accountability. February 12th, Saturday morning, February 12th. I start drawing page 1. And then once a week, there'll be a page until it's done. In the meantime, this remaining 2 weeks from today, I'm just getting all my ducks in a row with references and resources and making sure I'm happy with my page layouts and everything. I'm really at that last leg. The only reason I'm not starting next weekend is I have like a ridiculous dental appointment Friday, and I'm just feeling like I'm not going to be into like starting to draw Saturday. I might be kind of just feeling sorry for myself and poor. So I'm thinking like, okay, the weekend after that. So, but yeah, it's happening. Cue the gif of is it Ron Paul saying like it's happening gif? Like
I don't remember if that was a.
I don't know. I think it is. Like if you people on Facebook will find it. My cat yelling at me. You can just ignore that.
So Squatch is in the chats and said, "What's up, fellas?" And I felt like that's unusual for Squatch when Gary's on. And then he followed it with, "Well, look who it is, not working."
As a matter of fact, Squatch, I'm going to be multitasking. I'm going to be listening to these two gentlemen chat while I work.
I heard you. I forgot what show it was on, Gary. It might have been Tarako, but you were talking about how you kind of work at your own pace because you don't really have a boss to answer to as far as your personal projects. And I'm like, isn't like Squatchy your boss? Isn't he the one that is?
Yeah. He is a little bit. I picture him kind of with a riding crop standing behind me, just like, periodically whapping the desk. Just bang.
Yeah, I think I've seen that on some kinky fan sites, Gary, that illustration.
Not that kind of thing. That's a totally different way I picture Squatch. Other time, when I'm not at night. And I light some candles and put on some music. Picture Squatch with his riding crop.
I love it.
Squatch, this took a real weird left turn, didn't it?
Yeah, you guys. I don't know if this is going to be a monetized video after the fact. Speaking of monetized videos, I'm trying to get better at mentioning this on Artcasters. Any video I'm doing, we are artists. We all could use support. And honestly, if you guys want to support what I'm doing, especially with Two Stories Book 2 or Jacob's Apartment or any other future endeavors, we do take super chats as we're doing these things. So feel free to super chat something. Also, we're joined by Eddie Sedgwick in the chats. So anyhow, I think I got all the generic stuff. Oh, I didn't mention this. Pre-order Jacob's Apartment, my graphic novel.
Yeah.
And I just got proofs, and I've kind of shown them on previous streams, but it's a very cool book and worth ordering. And then if you want to see what I do, get Two Stories. So,
congratulations, by the way, on like all the recent good news, like that coming out, and then the about the Medium, that comic.
Yeah, that's gonna be a trip, man. It's called Not Death But Love, and I'm really excited about it. They finally put it out on Publishers Marketplace, so I can mention that it's about the Brownings. And Elizabeth Barrett and Robert Barrett Browning, and so I can't start that until we have the script like fully edited by the publisher. But yeah, I'm gonna have like a crazy busy year. It's gonna be nuts.
That's awesome, though. That's great.
Yeah, but I'm also excited.
I'm happy for you.
Oh, well, thank you, dude. Yeah, I'm excited to just dip into, like, at some point, it'll be fun to kind of switch gears from the autobio and slice of life stuff to, like, a historical fiction thing. So that's going to be really fun to, like, delve into,
Yeah.
Although I am intimidated because after we had, now I'm, oh my gosh, my brain, Scott, Laura, what's her last name?
Wait, I'm sorry.
Laura.
Laura Ennis?
Yes, Laura Ennis. Okay, thank you. Yeah, so we had her. She does The Dreamer, and like she told a few horror stories of like, kind of like doing art and then getting like these guys who were like, well, in the Civil War, this actually wasn't accurate to your drawing, and like having to deal with like 50 emails like that from like drawing like the wrong like seam line on a dress or something.
Yeah.
So that'll be interesting to see if that ends up happening based on my art, where they're like, in that time,
right,
the long containers.
3-button coat, 2-button was the fashion. Right, exactly. No, you know what? It's funny. I think I have, just judging by the voice you're using to imitate that person, I think we have the same opinion of that person, and yet I spend a ton of time doing the research, like, because I think maybe I am sort of that person and also hate and fear that person. So,
yeah, I agree. Yeah. And the amount,
I am looking at 1970s office doors. Like,
I love that though. You kind of do that deep dive pretty fluently, like frequently with your books, right?
I do, yeah. Well, especially the ones that are older, and they're like 97. You have a lot of wiggle room.
Yeah.
It's not that, I mean, when you think about it now, it's 24 years ago, which is kind of crazy, but like they're not the dramatic changes where if you're doing like someone set in the 70s, where there's a lot of little details you want to check. But
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why in my book I specifically don't mention exactly what year it is in the 80s. So I have a little bit of room. And plus, I also, if my argument would be if anyone's really critical about that, I'd say, well, this is sort of an alternate universe because
There you go.
there were never, as far as my recollection, there was never a zombie outbreak in the 80s. So, and maybe in this alternate universe, Rubik's Cube came out a year earlier or something, I mean,
yeah, right. Yeah. No,
Yeah.
and that's probably it's a corner I paint myself into by picking a specific date.
Yeah.
It's like, and I'm not doing the Marvel thing where it's like, oh no, this is Earth 666 or whatever, where I think that's ours anyway, but whatever.
Earth 666. That's like my favorite metal album, dude.
Isn't that the one? I'm not really a Marvel comic guy, but
is there really a 666 Earth? Is it like super demonic?
They named them all, and I think somebody, Squatch probably knows, but like I think that if Squatch had an alternate universe, that has nothing to do with it's not like a metal thing, but it's I don't know. I don't remember. They all have different numbers. And
I was just thinking, like, so if Squatch were to come from an alternate universe, maybe it would be Earth 666.
There we go, 616. 616.
Oh, okay.
And Squatch, is that like the mainline Marvel universe, or is that the MCU? I forgot. I like I said, I don't follow this too closely. I just got enough to have that in my head. But
I have trouble following. It's funny that like a lot of people assume when you do comics, even if you're doing like indie comics, that you're like completely following the mainstream.
Right.
It's one of the things that always crack me up about a lot of the people who get really mad about what's going on in current comics, where they'll like be really mad about it and talk about the writing's terrible and like everything's blah, blah, blah. But like they're following like to a T everything that's happening in mainstream comics. And I'm like, I don't know. I can't even follow half the complaints about it because I don't read like a lot of modern comics. Like I just don't.
I'm totally out of it. I don't.
Yeah. But that might also just be that we're old farts.
And I've gotten to the point. It's actually the same with video games where there was like I'm more interested in revisiting old games than playing new ones. And with comics, it's sort of the same. I'm more interested in revisiting old comics I liked.
Yeah.
Checking out like what's the latest Batman or whatever.
Yeah. Dude, so that's cool though. You're making progress.
Yeah, it's going well.
You're about to get to the really fun stuff because it's like all that pre-work. Well, that's pretty fun, but I feel like the execution, once you have all that pre-work, is just sort of like plug and play. Like I mean,
it's much easier. It's the easier part. I think. I mean, it's at least the most. It's not easy. It's a little more mindless. Where like the planning is where you have to really kind of think about what you're doing and start being you have to make a lot of decisions. Though, and this is a good thing, I was looking at my page layouts, like my thumbs, just yesterday, 2 days ago, and felt a very distinct gnawing anxiety because there are already like on page 3, there's stuff where it's like I have no idea how to draw this.
Yeah.
And in a way like that, like it makes you uneasy. But on the other hand, it's like, well, I guess that's good. Like, I guess I want that every time. Like, I remember that with 97. There were a lot of parts of 97. It's like, I have no idea how I'm going to draw this. I guess I'll just figure it out when I have to. And same with this one. There are a bunch of parts where it's like, I have not decided how that will look or how to do that in black and white.
Yeah.
Like, there's a scene, this isn't very spoilery, but early in the story, there's a kind of a low light room where there's a projector going, and it's like projecting a slide on a projector screen, and there's people in the room talking, and trying to do that black and white without a lot of like I don't do the cross hatching thing with the look of D versus M. It's like, going to be a little weird to have a bright screen, but also make the people visible, but also make the screen itself that's not being projected on visible. Like, I'm just like, I don't know exactly how that's going to work, but I guess I'll figure it out. So
Yeah,
things like that, where it's like, I don't know, this will be a good challenge, but I don't know.
I feel like a good, and I'm sure you're probably going to rock it anyway, but I feel like just that description, from what I recall, there's like a part in Citizen Kane where he's watching a flickering screen or something. So I feel
I
like,
might have to review that.
and that movie uses a lot of cheap like lighting, like really cool, like reflective lighting. So like a ton of things are like rim lit in like these weird, interesting ways. So that might be good.
That might be,
For
I'll have to
helping
check
with
that out.
that scene. We have, you know what? I got to give Frank a link too. Hang on a second.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there is
Frank was going to be here. I don't know if I would have jumped on.
there's a
We
Let's
need
see
to know
here.
just play it back.
okay. Frank, I sent you a link if you want to hop on. Dude. Yeah, like there's like a weird. There is a weird anxiety when you like. I definitely experienced that when I finished all my roughs for this book, and then like the quantity of the work I have to do, just like it's like a weird relief because everything's kind of fun after that, but it's still a lot of work. It's just the fun work, you know.
It's at least very. I don't know what the word is. I guess predictable, maybe. Like you now at least it's drawing, and that's something I've done since I was 4. So it's like I know how to draw, but it's so it's easy in that sense. Like, but then there's like you're looking at the kinds of things you're drawing, and you're like, oh boy.
Yeah, it's also those times where you start hating yourself as a client, where you're like, why am I such a bad client to myself?
Yeah, well, and it's the, I think I've used this before. It's like, it's that the dueling Garys, the writer Gary versus the artist Gary, where like now artist Gary is looking at the script and these thumbed pages and being like, like to writer Gary is like, well, this is easy for you to say. Like, this is really easy for you to write, but like, how am I going to do that? It's like, well, I don't know. Figure it out.
Dude. Well, okay. So now we have a Frank Salazar with us. This is one of many Frank Salazar.
Yeah, just one of them.
Frank, how's it going? Where can everybody check out your stuff?
Well, you can find me on Salazar Art Nation on YouTube and on Instagram. And if you go to any one of my videos on YouTube, there is a link tree in there, and you can find all my stuff. Also, my Etsy store, Salazar Nation Comics. You can get some Captain Goggles and Masculine mini comics. We have 16 sets left of issue 1, issue 2, and the standalone Masculine story. And pretty soon, the third and final mini issue of that Captain Goggles Masculine storyline will be up there. But don't worry, it's not the end of Captain Goggles and Masculine, because we are working on the graphic novel, which is now being called Warp Anchor 7.
I love it. Cool. All right. Okay, I have no idea what we want to talk about because I was just going to work on comics, and now I'm joined by all these fun people. So, anything?
I got a question before we get into a topic, just for because something I'm working on right now.
Rocket.
Do you guys? I assume, like a Google, if you do a Google map, that is. It's got to be trademark or copywritten. So I couldn't take that map and put it in like a KDP book, right? I assume.
It depends.
Well,
I mean,
question. Would it
Go
be?
ahead.
I mean, it's.
And my next question would be, if it is
I'm not
there
sure.
some place out there that can generate maps that I can print and publish?
So
Wow.
the question I was going to ask is like, are you talking about actually taking the literal Google map or using the Google map as reference to kind of make your own map?
Well, if I'm hoping I don't have to do that, but I mean, that would be my third option, I guess, is to just totally redraw a map. But
Okay.
because basically what I'm doing is I'm doing I'm doing a like a booklet that I'm going to publish through KDP for it's this Porsche club, and then they take their Porsches and then it talks about the route. So they want to show the route that they're taking, and they're going to give that to everyone in their club.
Okay.
So they gave me a sample of what they were because they were just doing PDFs before, but we want to do a proper book, printed booklet.
I hope they're giving you a Porsche for this job.
Yeah.
Like that's a job where I
Porsche
might do
illustration.
some bartering. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. No.
Although then again, I also would hope they'd cover my insurance costs after getting said Porsche.
What area? Is there a specific area? So like,
yeah, it's kind of the South. I think they start in California, and then they go to, I don't know where they end up finally. I think Mexico maybe, or New Mexico.
If it was Maricopa County, I would have an answer for
Yeah.
you, because the assessor site has maps that you can download that are fairly high res. And for all my understanding, I mean, it's what we use at work for maps for diagrams.
Yeah.
So, and it's, taxpayer funded public domain assessors, that no one would be coming for you. Like it's kind of just public record.
I mean, I can always do a Google search for a public domain map generator or something.
Or you'd have to maybe look. What's tricky is that it's ranging to California. You would have to find maybe each county in between here and there, and go to their assessor site and find maps. I mean, that would be the labor intensive way, but that in theory that would be fine.
I wonder if that would be more labor intensive with just redrawing the map, and because if it's just if it's just drawing the route without all the, when you Google something on Google Maps, they've got all the outlined cities and areas and stuff like that. Maybe I don't need all that.
Right.
Maybe I just need the main. Yeah, I don't know. I was just curious. That's something I'd never thought of before until just right now. And
no, me neither.
Yeah.
But I can do more research. I just didn't know if off the top of your head you guys knew, because I'll just Google our Google Maps.
So I think
publish Google Maps and then find out if there's an option.
So Corey in the chat said, although Corey, you really got to do like a super chat if you want me to read it. I'm just kidding.
Oh, okay.
I'm trying to shake down. He said, I believe Google mapped keyhole satellite images, which are U.S. government owned, and the images themselves are public domain, but the collection of those images are copyrighted by Google. And then he said NASA satellite images are all public domain. So maybe you want to rock some.
But can you type in a route on NASA and have it generate the way to go?
Yeah,
I guess is the thing.
I don't know. That's a beast, man. You might, this might be one of those scenarios where you actually have to make the map.
Yeah.
Although you can kind of pretend it's like you're illustrating like Lord of the Rings or something while you're.
Well, I've designed a lot of maps in the past, but
it's just a pain in the butt, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I used to do it when I had a job at the stationery company doing wedding invitations and things.
Okay.
I used to do that too, Gary.
What's that?
I used to do that too.
Oh, really?
Design invitation. Who did you work for?
This was at Wedding Paper Divas.
Okay, I worked for a company called the Paper Place in Scottsdale.
Oh yeah. This was like the parent company was Shutterfly, but they had companies that bought Tiny Prints wedding paper. The wedding paper divas were called the wedding stationery. But you do like there was a name for them, but you put in little maps on how to find the venue of the wedding or how to find the reception or whatever, and like they would send you like this is the area we want. You would go in and draw. You'd make it pretty, like draw a pretty little map for the stationery.
I see Jim's in the background. You want to let him in?
Yeah, dude, Jim.
Jim's
He's hopped on. Oh my gosh, we have a Lujan with us.
He's in the grocery store. It looks like.
Oh my
This
goodness.
is the CDC. This is the CDC. I'm shutting down this meeting.
Yeah.
There's Jim.
I love it. It's funny, Jim. The video. This almost looks like one of those viral videos where you're gonna give people grief for wearing masks. Like,
Hold on. Let's go to the air freshener section here. That's more scenic. We have your variety of air fresheners. We've got your
do you guys
Caribbean
need
colada,
Jim to
your
pick
Bay-
anything
your
up for
Bayside
you?
breeze. Of course, I'm.
All right, Jim, can you send me that red one?
Yeah, I need some frozen sandwiches. My dad sent me to the grocery store, and I'm up at Flagstaff near NAU, and it's college town, and they're all bare. And he wanted some kind of just microwavable sandwiches. I can, whether it's roast beef or whatever, or something like that. And I went to 3 different grocery stores, and there's like nothing on the shelves. And then I asked somebody, and they said, "Oh yeah, and those don't stay on the shelf long in college towns. That's all the kids eat."
Yeah,
So.
that makes sense.
I love it.
Bleach.
Well,
It's a hot
Jim,
commodity.
speaking of College Town, I think he's in College Town right now, just shopping away.
I'm
How's it going,
actually. If I tell you where I'm at, you can't break into my house. Promise. I'm in Las Vegas right now.
Oh, sweet. Enjoy.
Las Vegas.
Okay.
That's in Nevada.
I've heard of
Oh, okay.
So, what was I just want to answer it. Corey, you said that there was some kind of question or something like that. What was it? What was the
Corey's in
question?
chat.
Oh, the
Oh, we
Mets?
were just curious how you were doing, man. Like, oh, let's see here.
Hold on. Ronnie.
That should be illegal for them to use my self-portrait like that on packaging.
Guys, I'm in the toilet paper aisle right now. What do you want? What kind? You want 2-ply or 3-ply?
I prefer 3, but
I have 3.
Ronnie?
I like to treat my tush well.
Yeah.
Guys.
I'm gonna say, like,
You know what?
if you're gonna spend on the toilet paper. Like, don't scrimp on toilet paper.
Why
You'll regret it.
Which is really funny because I like to treat my tush well is what Gary has on his profile. So odd.
That's right. That's right. This is my dating.
That's how we met.
Okay. It's your motto,
You guys
Gary?
want a dog treat? Anybody?
Look, it's not a bad motto. It's
Dog treat?
My goodness. So, what are you doing in Vegas, Jim? Are you on a wild stint?
Family birthday. It's my nephew's birthday and my sister-in-law, his mom's birthday. So when we go to Vegas, it's a family thing. It's not like a gambling thing.
Yeah.
Although there will be lots of cocaine and prostitutes at this party.
right.
I went on a deep
Good
dive, kind of out of curiosity, about the Luxor, because they have this like light at the top of the Luxor, and I just like had a day where I spent like an unreasonable amount of time watching documentaries on how they made that light like so powerful that it like shines that brightly. And I didn't realize that like that light, all it does is just draw like tons of bugs to it. There's like these monumentally huge bugs that just fly around it. And tourists will like, look at it and be like, "It's fairies! It's sparkling fairies!" It's kind of amazing.
That light draws in
Just
tons
mosquitoes.
of bugs and alcoholics.
And alcoholics, yeah, that's true.
Guys, do you need any spray and wash while I'm here?
Anyone?
Spick and span?
I'm good.
Anybody?
I do actually.
Let's see.
I'm.
I
I need
you know
some
what?
raid.
I just wanted to jump in, say hello. Truth is, I miss Gary, but I wanted to say hello, and I also wanted to. I was thinking maybe we could all get together and make one giant NFT.
Oh. Oh no, NFTs again.
Because I hear those are the hot things now.
That's
But
true.
you know what?
I heard there was the impression I got was that there was a hot debate that I missed.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
Oh, that's a good.
that got
I was
crazy.
listening to that before we logged on.
Yeah.
I mean, you had to stop talking about NFTs because it was about a 4-hour episode, and
Yeah.
I think you're about 5 minutes before it was supposed to end. But yeah, I mean, you and Corey really had some good.
I gotta go back to my family really quick, but before
All
I
right,
go,
Jim.
I just wanted wanted you guys to know the simple truth is that I'm glad to know you.
Aww.
Okay. See you
Well,
Monday,
night.
Jim.
You too,
Okay.
buddy. Hey, yeah, what's going on
Okay.
on Monday?
Yeah,
Oh,
are we
I'm
still
gonna be
on, Jim? Or are
the
you out of
Turocco
town?
Cast.
Oh, okay.
It's baseball cap night on the Turocco Cast. It's gonna be outrageous. I can't wait. So
Yeah.
Yeah, I
That's
gotta get a
I think we're gonna
baseball
talk
cap.
about stuff. So all right, but anyways, Artcaster.
Right.
All right. Well, we had Jim live. Like, I didn't realize we had like on the scene reporters for my live stream, but apparently that's the
On the
case.
scene Artcasts.
I love it. We need more of that. Let's see. Oh, and Ronnie Gunter just joined us in the chats.
Nice.
Hey, Ronnie.
Ronnie, how's it going, man?
All right. So, okay, that was chaos, you guys. That was chaos. Chaos of all kinds. So, what are you guys like Scott, what do you do? Like, do you work on freelance and stuff while you're at your dad's, or are you just kind of stuck
Yeah,
there?
it's well, okay. So yeah, because I'm here for probably a week. So I brought my whole desktop setup up here. It's right here. Yeah, and then my laptop's over here. That's what I'm using. But the thing is, because it's a desktop and I don't have a little adapter, I don't have any internet access. So basically, I've got like an SD card, and I got my laptop which has Wi-Fi. So if I need to use the internet, if I need something from the internet on my desktop, I've got to download it on my laptop and then put it on an SD card and bring it onto my desktop.
Oh, boy.
But so anyway, and then I had planned to bring my whole Cintiq up here, and as I'm breaking everything down, my Cintiq just turned off, and I couldn't figure out how to turn it on. And this is kind of probably a stupid thing, but I didn't realize that on my model there is a power button that's on the back of the Cintiq for some odd reason, and I didn't know that as long as I've had that thing. Or maybe I knew it and I forgot about it or something. So I'm like, why isn't this thing working? I'm like, oh man, am I going to have to buy a whole new Cintiq and everything? So I'm hoping that when I get back that was the problem. But I think it's just because. So in my leadership training, one of the things we talk about is everything. You're responsible for everything. You create everything. You're responsible for everything. And so I'm thinking, well, why? How am I responsible for my Cintiq not working, and what was the reason behind that? And I'm like, well, obviously, I don't. I mean, I've got an Intuos tablet here, but I haven't been doing a lot of drawing. Mostly, what I'm doing is working on KDP stuff, and it's all or editing videos. So I don't even need my pen tablet for that. For most everything I've done so far, and I'm like, well, obviously, the universe or whatever is just trying to tell me I don't need to bring my whole Cintiq up here. That's kind of a hassle. So that's why it didn't work. So hopefully when I get back, it'll work. And the same thing with like when I was talking about how, because we weren't doing Artcasters. Yeah. How I drove all the way up to, the convenience store trying to get a good signal because my power went out and all that stuff. And I'm like, so I have to, if you're 100% responsible, you have to ask yourself, well, how did I create this situation? And I'm like, well, obviously the reason why the power went off is because, at the last minute, Mike got sick and couldn't show up. And I didn't really have a backup plan. And so I must have created it that way. I know this is all, for anyone who hasn't done these trainings, it may seem kind of weird, but so I must have created it this way because I didn't really have a backup, and, I didn't have a B plan for all that. So my computer went out, and then we'll just reschedule it for next week and everything will be fine. So I don't know. Long story. but I forgot what the original question was.
Well, it was like more
how
you're working down there.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So anyway, so I brought my whole desktop and everything up here. I set it up here on the kitchen table, and I got my laptop and my iPad and all that. So
now I'm curious though,
the
Scott.
question was, how's life treating you?
Yeah. But the thing is, like, because I had to bring the desktop, I can't work on my laptop because I don't have all my software on the laptop, all my, my Adobe and my everything. So I'm like, I'm just gonna, if I'm gonna be up here for a week, I might as well just bring my whole desktop up here. So that's what I did.
Yeah, I tend to do that too. Like if I have to be like out of the house for a while, like I'll have like a little mobile rig of like my desktop. I don't have a laptop.
At some point,
like,
I do want to get. At some point, I do want to get like a powerful enough laptop that has all that and get all all my software and everything on that. So
now I'm curious though.
Mobile,
I want to hear more about like I don't want to pry too much about the leadership thing, but like that sounded interesting to me. Let me know if Gary, you or Frank don't want to delve into that, but like I'm really interested in this like idea of like total responsibility. That's interesting to me.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird thing because like in I can only speak. I really can only speak to my experience. I can't talk about other people's experience.
Yeah. And I don't want you to like reveal anything that. Like,
and I can't really go into too much of all the because it needs to. In order for it to work properly, people have to go into it not knowing what it is, because there's a lot of things that you learn, but if you already know in your mind what's going to happen, there's like certain games that you play, and if you know the outcome, then it doesn't serve you well. So
that makes perfect sense.
I can't go into everything, but one of the main principles is 100% responsibility. So and the way, and whether you can look at it two ways. You can look at it like this is the way the universe works, or you can look at it as just this is a different way to look at something and to kind of, I guess, figure out like if you're not into the way it's designed, it's secular. So, but if you go into it thinking, if you're going to it as a religious person, then everything is informed by your beliefs. If you go into it as a non-religious person, it can either be the universe or it can just be yourself or whatever. So you use whatever works for you.
Yeah.
For
just
me, I'm kind of on the little. I'm sort of on the. I'm sort of on the. I think there's something out there beyond what we have as humans have the capability of understanding. I don't know what that is.
Yeah.
Whether that's God, whether it's the universe, whether it's Mother Nature, whether it's whatever. But if you don't believe any of that, it's just a good way to look at it, because you can learn from it. You can look at a situation and like, why did this situation unfold like this? And what is the benefit I can get out of it, even if it's a bad situation. Cause like when we're going through training, they said, okay, COVID, that's your fault. And like, what? But you look at it like, okay, so if I'm responsible, then how do I react to it? How do I react to, COVID being around? And because if you don't take responsibility, it's like out of your control. And then you're just wandering around and you have no way to, successfully navigate it or use whatever bad situations or any situation, I guess, to your advantage.
Yeah.
At least that's the way I look at it.
So it's kind of like utilitarian in a weird way, where it's like you're trying to find the utility in whatever situation you're in.
Yeah. What's the how do you look at it, the bright side, and how do you
it's, correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like it's basically kind of teaching an agency mindset where
it's very much and also the abundance mindset, abundance versus scarcity, because if you're living in scarce, you have no control over a situation. If you look at things abundantly, then okay, well, why did this happen, and what how can I benefit for it, or how can I make the best out of this, or just use it to my advantage or whatever. I think that sounds fairly healthy. I can see a downside to it if you took it the wrong way, but it doesn't sound like that's the area they're going, No.
Where it's like, I mean, like, like if you got home and somebody had murdered your whole family or something, you're like, I'm responsible for this. How did
it is really
hard. I left the door open.
Disorder, it would be like pouring gasoline on the fire,
Right. Yeah. I see what you're saying. Yeah. You could definitely. Yeah.
But I don't think, it doesn't sound to me like that's the way they're taking it. And also even I could even see an argument against what I just brought up, because if you focus even in the worst of situations
Right.
on everything that's outside of your own control, like your usual response will be to just like shutting down or like feeding anger or like, you know, getting in like a loop. Whereas like I can see where there's utility in just looking at the situation you're in, seeing what you can do. You know?
Yeah.
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 Sorry, I have like a million dogs in my house.
Is that a duck?
You have a pack, Josh? Okay, we go.
Is it wolves?
Yeah.
The dingo.
Scott, that's pretty interesting, because I go to a mentoring class every Thursday, and one of the things that they say in the beginning when they started is like you take responsibility that you are the problem.
Yeah.
So that's something that's also taught, but the way you're saying, like they go more into it, and like you have to actually find a way. Okay, how am I the problem in this situation?
Yeah.
But that's a thing where in any relationship, like how is this divided? Like, how is this, like, is it who has the responsibility? Is it 50%, 50-50? Is it 20-30 or whatever? And you're like, oh no, it has to be 50. Like, you know, when you're married or you're in a relationship, like I take 50% responsibility, you take 50% responsibility. But he says, no, you take 100% responsibility.
Yeah,
and I like that they kind of like explain like how do you actually do that, and so that's really cool what you're saying. I want to
my
get
biggest
more into that
sort of breakthrough with the whole thing, the thing that there are a couple big ones I had. That the main one was I was holding. I'll get personal. I mean, I was holding on to a lot of.
Sorry, I have to highlight this because Brianna has terrible timing when she comes to the shot on the show. She said, "I come in and we're talking about murderers again." Like, I think the last time she hopped in the chats, it was literally I was just making a joke on an analogy that I felt was kind of unfair. That was happening during the NFT conversation, and I think I used a murderer as like an extreme example.
I know Josh always goes to murder.
It's true. I guess
that's his go-to. But what if I murder someone? Whose fault is that?
But I don't want to derail Scott, because actually I think this is important. So like you were saying, one of the kind of big breakthroughs you had.
So I and you don't realize, and a lot of what you learn through leadership is most of your life is informed by things that happen to you from 0 to 8 years old, you know, that, you know, and how that affects your whole life and everything. But basically, you know, and this isn't something that happens from 0 to 8, but like my whole divorce and everything, I was still holding on to a lot of pain and a lot of anger about that. And I didn't really realize how much that affected me, because I had, in a lot of ways, I had moved on and I had gone into other better relationships, and life was better for me after that immediate shock of everything that went down.
Yeah.
But I was still held on to it. I mean, just anytime I talked to my ex, it was just like, you know, I didn't want to talk to her. I held a lot of, just not great thoughts at her. And then finally, and through the training, the biggest thing was just to let all that stuff go, and take responsibility, and that was really hard for me, because it wasn't my choice. I'll just put it that, I'll make it simple as that. But taking responsibility and just having a deep conversation with her, I mean, that helped me move on with my relationship now, and just for my kids and all that stuff. And so, I mean, that was one of the biggest things, that came out of that. And the other thing was just, I think stepping away, and this is a personal thing for me. I know it's something that's important, especially for a lot of people. It's important for the world, but for me personally, just stepping away from politics and things that just angered me and things that, you know, I just used to get so upset about that kind of stuff. And it was just, it took up so much of my brain power and my, you know, all that stuff that I was just, you know, worrying about all this stuff and just kind of just realize, you know, different people, you know, have different interpretations of the way things are. And, you know, and some people, you know, it's up.
I've had conversations with you about the politics thing too, and it's like it's not that you're uninformed or anything, and like I think you still recognize that like it's important to like know what's going on, but like there is a healthy place to draw the line, and I definitely can relate to the fact that like I've had moments, you know, where it fills me with fury, and I'm like, why am I even paying attention to politics? You know?
I have to ration myself sometimes. Like it's a little.
Well, and you just you have to. Another thing is you have to ask yourself: do you want to be right or do you want to be happy?
Yeah,
and
that's
you
a great
usually
question.
can't be both. And everyone, when it comes to politics, everyone wants to be right, and you can die on whatever hill you want to die on, and you can argue or whatever, but are you happy? Is that making you happy?
Yeah.
You know, I find a lot of people that are super, you know, adamant about one particular political affiliation or party or belief or whatever. It seems like they're always arguing about it. And is that making you happy?
Yeah.
And for me personally, it wasn't, you know, when I see people that just, you know, it's like my way or the highway. It's this or that. It's like, okay, if that makes you happy, I guess. But you know,
and we got Corey here. I think Corey, your stream is off, so I don't know whether to throw you on or not because I don't know if you're ready.
Still be just setting things up.
So give me a thumbs up, Corey, whenever you're set up and ready.
There it
is. That is something that I noticed about the art casters in the 48-hour art check. When I started watching that. Like Josh has a different political view, Corey, Scott.
And, I mean,
but it wasn't like no, you're wrong. No, I'm right. It wasn't like constant fighting and constant bringing up politics.
That's just because
I think between all of us, I think even though we differ on certain things, I still think as a whole we have sort of a lot of the same, you know, core beliefs. I think, but I have friends that are like super to the opposite end of the things that I, you know, that I care about or whatever. And it doesn't mean that they're not my friends, you know, and I can, you know, I can go to their house and hang out with them and, you know, and it's also like, even back when I was in high school, I wasn't really into any cliques or whatever. I had friends that were, you know, I had friends that were like stoners, and I had friends that were like the hip hop crowd, and I had friends that were, you know, academics, and I had friends that were jocks, or whatever the case. If you were cool to me, I was cool to you.
Yeah.
So I mean, so I don't know. I mean, that's kind of. I mean, everyone just has their own interpretations of the way things are. So
agreed.
You know, as long as you can hang out with me and put that stuff aside, and I put it aside, then you know we can be good friends.
I did have one thing I wanted to bring up among cartoonists that is slightly political, but I think we'd all agree on. So Tennessee really recently, and this isn't Scott, you don't have to chime in either, but Tennessee recently, a school board meeting banned mouse from an 8th grade reading list. And I think that's horseshit, regardless of what political party you're in.
Thank you, Josh. Finally, they did it. I'm joking. But
yeah, 100% with you, Josh. They need to get all the books out there because, you know, it's just making
I'm definitely.
What's the point of that?
And just to, and I'll throw this over to Corey and ask if his T-shirt's available yet. But I am very much into free speech and the First Amendment. So no, I mean I need to send you.
I feel like the reason I even brought that up is like I feel like the neat thing about our group is that like we don't always ideologically agree, but like there wasn't a point where I read that and was like, yeah, my buddies who are cartoonists who believe in free speech and like the importance of literature and art, I don't know one of them who's going to be like, oh, that's great. Tennessee should be defended in this case. It's like, no, we tend to be like, we see eye to eye enough to where I don't think like when it comes to like the really, like to me, that's a really important one because it's art, it's comics. And it's like, to me, I frankly, I mean, the subject matter obviously needs to be taught in schools and stuff too, but it's like, to me, it's just the fact that it's a comic on a reading list. Don't ban that shit. Like, period. Like, I want comics read. So, you know, as a cartoonist,
this is obviously a generalization. There's got to be edge cases, but for me, it would be kind of hard for me to conceive of any creative who was for the banning of any book of any kind.
Yeah,
you know, like no matter what it was. Like, and I would have the same reaction. I don't know. I mean, Mein Kampf is maybe not a great example because it's instructive, but if they said something like, we're banning Mein Kampf, even that I'd be like, what are you doing? Why are you banning books? To me, like, at least my generation of liberal, born in the 70s, you know, banning any kind of book is just a weird fascist move.
Yep.
You know, like it's, I don't care what it is. I don't care if it's like awful porn, like whatever. It's like, you just don't ban books. Like
even Mein Kampf does have an upside because all the proceeds that go from that book go. This is not a joke. They go to help.
I thought you were going in a different direction. Yeah.
No, I support. No, like they go to help like victims of Holocaust and like Jewish communities and stuff like that.
I was afraid Frank was going to be like, the thing about Mein Kampf is like some good ideas.
Allow good views. I'm gonna start using Captain Goggles and Mask Woman. That's why I'm getting my inspiration.
I do think like it's one of those things though, like if we like try to ban or hide that book though, it just makes it like it just
more
makes
people
it
are
like
gonna want
hidden.
to get it for it.
Of course.
Yeah.
It drives it underground and drives discussion about it underground, which is where like bad ideas can flourish. And then also, you know, similarly, like, you know, like, like the thing that was weird to me reading about the mouse thing, and again, we can change subject matter if anybody doesn't want to talk about this, but it's like, to me, I don't think anyone's super uncomfortable, but it's like, to me, like the thing that was weird to me was reading the article. It was mainly I don't think the people who were banning it were like outright fascists or anything. But I do think they were like weirdly like coddling their children. Like, because it's like 8th graders who are reading like The Bell Jar by like Sylvia Plath. Like that's about the era that you read that book, which is like heavy and gets into like suicide and all sorts of crazy stuff. And like definitely has blatant sexuality in it all over it, you know? And it's like kids at that age, like that's kind of the age range where you should be exploring topics that are hard to deal with. And like, half of the school board meeting, I was reading quotes where they were like, well, they show like children being murdered. Yeah, it was the Holocaust. Like, I mean, children got murdered. Like,
it happened.
The downside is if they don't show it or talk about it, then people won't realize like the horrors that human beings are capable of, which is an important thing to learn at that age, you know? So,
no, it's strange. And I have to admit, I didn't go down the rabbit hole of seeing like what the rationale was, you know, like I don't know, but I had heard it was something like they had gotten, which again to me, my generation is like the most bizarre thing to object to. You know? That's, I mean, we're gonna like, that's the criteria because they used a bad word. Oh no.
And then like also just considering
all the things to be offended by. But.
Yeah, and like if it's language, like I mean, are we gonna ban like the entire canon of English literature now? Because there's a lot of language in a lot of great books. Like
and that's I want to give them the benefit of the doubt and say maybe it's just a bunch of dummy parents who don't really know what they're doing. They've never read you know, like that. Maybe there's not a weird like, let's start hiding all the Nazi stuff. I don't know what but it's in any case,
my benefit of the doubt is they might not be fascist. That's my benefit of the doubt on it.
Yeah, they might not be fascist. There might not be a weird angle to
that's what Spiegelman said in an interview. He was interviewed on think it was on CNN, and he said it's being banned by people who probably aren't Nazis.
Right.
Yeah.
Probably.
That's a good way to put it, though, right? Because it's like,
Yeah.
Anyhow, my point is like, I also think it's like that weird. It goes beyond just that book, because it's like Sendak used to talk about this a lot in interviews too, where, people who would critique his children's books or people who were mystified by why his kids' books did so well had like forgotten entirely what it was like to be a kid. Like, and he basically said kids are evil. Like kids are like monsters. Like they're not like these perfect little like precious like fluffy things. Like they have feelings. They have good feelings. They have bad feelings. Like, and by the time you're in 8th grade, you've heard a bad word. Like, no matter how hard your parents tried to hide you from it, no matter how much you don't use those maybe words in your house, there's no 8th grader alive who hasn't heard a bad word. Unless they live on like a weird self-isolated island with like 3 people,
On that, as sort of a tangent, but on the same topic, it's part of what I really loved about the Where the Wild Things Are live action movie. I don't know if you saw that. Which I had a lot of hesitations about. Like, it just seemed like something is like, why do we need a movie of this? But it was really good, and I thought it captured that sort of, I don't know, the angsty childhood and the reality of these sort of ugly emotions and all.
Sorry, I totally missed which movie you were talking about. Could you?
Where the Wild Things Are.
Oh yeah. I really enjoyed that movie.
Yeah.
I really like that writer, and now I'm blanking out at the work of Staggering Genius guy. He's really good.
Is it Eggers who did it?
Yeah, Dave Eggers did the script.
Yeah.
And
I thought it was really good.
Yeah, Eggers is one of those writers that when I read that book, Staggering Genius, I had a moment of like, should I even be making art? Have you guys had that with anyone? Like,
when I read 2 stories, I was gonna quit.
That's the right answer, Frank, and you get a reward of a high five.
And everyone else is kicked off the screen.
Yeah, you guys all fail. Yeah. It's me and Frank's screen from now.
Do you remember that Tenacious D bit where the friendship test?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, you should explain to people who don't, though.
The friendship. Well, it was just a little it was off one of their albums. I don't remember which one. Where Jack Black calls up Kyle. He's like, "Hey, what are you doing, man?" He's like, "Oh, nothing." And he just interrupts him. He's like, "Hey, I love you, man." And there's this long, awkward pause. And Kyle's like, "Oh, that's nice, man. That's nice. That's great. I like you too, man. Like, I like that kind of just like very awkward." And Jack Black's like, "God, you almost failed the friendship test." And apparently the friendship test is like, you don't say "I love you" back. You do not say that. That's my impression of what the friendship is. But how he just barely passed. He barely
I think I said "I love you" to someone on the stream, like to someone who's a chat, like, "Hey, man, I love you, man," and then I felt awkward because I said live on the stream.
This is a weird thing that happens with having a kid, where I'll be at work and I have to go to the restroom and I'll say, "I have to go to the potty. I'll see you guys." And then I'm like, "What did I just say?" I just said I have to go to the potty as a full-grown adult at a workplace. And then similarly, I've totally had moments with a friend because I'm used to talking to my wife on the phone, and I'll just be like, "Love ya," and then I'm like, "Wait, what did I just know? Oh God."
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna go make a poopy, guys.
I've been on the receiving end of that, where I'm talking to a friend, like he's telling me something, and then he'll end it like, "All right, love you," And like I think he's just used to saying it to his wife, so like I didn't take it anyway.
Yeah,
It was
I
like,
appreciate Frank that you just took the "I love you" and just didn't say it. No, I'm just kidding. That would have been funny if that friend was me. It's like I have this friend.
I love you.
Yeah.
I don't know. So what moments like what art has been so, like? Have you guys ever had like art that's been so good that it makes you want to quit? And what art was it, if so?
Huh.
Not quit. I mean, I think I quickly just sort of throw it in the category.
Question my life.
No, never like that. It's always just like, well, I'm not that level, and
Yeah.
I just like, well, that's a different breed of artist.
Yeah. Well, I think
Yeah,
that's kind of what I mean.
I've had art that I
Yeah.
need to buy so I can deconstruct it.
Got it.
I'll see a page in a comic and I'm like, I need that original page.
Yeah.
What
so that I can figure out how they did it.
What was the last one that just killed you? It was so good.
One that has stood out to me, but the price is just too steep because it's sharp. Was I was reading an old issue of Wonder Woman, and there was this one page where she's in the jungle and turns the corner, and like Cheetah is sitting in this like throne of like plants and skulls, and the inks on it were so incredible that I looked up the page, and it was for sale, but I can't justify spending like $3,000 on
Oof.
art, so I didn't. But
Just cut out your kids' college fund, Corey, and you'll be able to afford
Yeah.
it.
yeah, my kids' college fund is you can go to the college I teach at for free, or you can pay for yourself somewhere else.
There you go.
Okay.
I did.
My kids' college fund is you pay for your college, you work, you pay for your
Go
college,
wherever
and
you want.
you can live here for free.
Yep.
There you go. Yeah, that was my plan. That was my yeah.
That's kind of what
And you can get
I'm
whatever
hoping to do.
scholarships you can get, which helps too.
Yeah,
hell yeah,
that
dude.
was another feature of mine. Yeah, I think the last time I was, someone reminded me of, I don't know how to pronounce his name. Is it Toppy?
Oh, Sergio Tapia.
Yeah, there you go. I have a few of his
That's
books.
freaking
Someone
amazing.
reminded me, and it made me want to browse it. And that's one where I think like this guy's on a different level.
Yeah.
Have you purchased the collected works that they've been putting out?
No, I have. I don't remember which one I have.
I've got like the collector,
Where's you
and then there's the North American, and then there's a couple of them that are pretty amazing.
I have one of them. Let me see here. This one.
Oh yeah, that's one I don't have.
Yeah.
I've got a couple of his books because he was often mentioned by Sean Gordon Murphy as one of his main inspirations.
Yeah,
So
I mean, it's like,
that's what got me into him.
and sometimes, I mean, for me, it's like you look at it, and I just not only do I not really know how he did it, I don't even know how he approached it, and how he made the decisions he made, and how he knew those were the right ones, and
Yeah.
it's just crazy. Like, I don't know. There's this picture of a witch here. I don't know if it'll come through very well, but
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
that's
And then you have
pretty
to
gorgeous.
see like, oops, wrong one. There we go.
So we're starting to see where you're aligned here, Gary. I mean, you were talking about the alternate world 666. Now you're showing pictures of witches. What's going on here?
Yeah.
What's
I'm just
going on,
trying to
Gary?
really subtly steer you guys into talking
And
about.
Gary brought
how
Mein
Lucifer
Kampf,
is
just so you
powerful.
guys know.
That's, I don't know if if you want to hear about it right now, we can talk about it. But I have some literature for you. Some
Gary's like, so, like, Scott, what you were talking about reminds me of, like, my Wiccan meetings, where it's like, wait, what? You're passing out, wait, oh my gosh, that would be amazing, like, Wiccan chick tracts. That would be, somebody needs to do this. Like, for real,
I was
that
at
would be hilarious.
my meeting with, the liberal Illuminati, and we were drinking infant blood, and I just thought, it's too bad my friends aren't here. And so
the other day I was, as I was sipping on my adrenochrome shake, I just, I love that kind of idea, you guys. I really do, in like the darkest, most evil way.
I can't tell if you're serious.
Did that
or
work?
not.
I want to like try doing that more often. I was just thinking when we're streaming, like you're staring at a camera, so you do have that moment of like if there's an awkward pause and you just kind of
Yeah. And just let the points sit out there. Just kind of.
Mhm.
Well, I was gonna talk about my review on Mein Kampf and what I like about it.
Oh no,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah.
Yeah,
How
that's
it's not that bad. How he gets a bad rap.
Yeah,
I always like
Yeah.
people just took a
It's
second.
misunderstood.
The way you can spot the
What you got wrong about Mein Kampf and what Mein Kampf got right.
What about Stalin? What about Stalin though?
I have
Always
heard like
Stalin.
I have noticed that there are like a lot of people who
I
do
bought a
this,
Hitler
like,
landscape.
there are these people who do this like weird veiled version now that will be like, well, I'm not saying that I like hate other people. I'm just saying we need the right to hate other people. And it's like, wait, what? Like it's a weird spin that's like almost trying to sound liberal. It's very strange. I don't know. It's interesting. What about you, Scott? Like what's the last thing you read that you're just like, this is amazing?
Oh man.
Or last artist you saw where you're just like, oh, they're too good.
I don't know. Well, yeah, that happens all the time. But
Yeah.
it's nothing that like makes me want to quit as a single thing. Collectively, over number of things, it's like, wow, man, it's just like, am I really any good? But it's, I don't know. I'm trying to think. What have I read recently? Well, I've been working on this course for kids and just pulling examples from that. Bone was one.
Oh yeah.
A lot of the examples that it's because I'm trying to pick really good stuff that's definitely all ages.
Yeah.
So and certain things that I didn't go into too much. I didn't go too much into like history, so I didn't go as far back as like Lindsay McKay or anything like that.
Yeah.
But
well, that's good too, because like Corey and I have like did a review of that, but it's a tough one to review because there is some stuff within McKay's work.
Well, yeah, and I did talk. There's one section where I talk about all the different kinds of comics, and I got into talking about like Franco-Belgian albums and stuff, and I used Tintin as an example, and I tried to pull the first premiere. Any time I was mentioning it, I tried to pull the first volume or first appearance.
Yeah.
And the first volume of Tintin, I mean, there's like a sidekick character who's pretty offensive. So
I forgot about Purge has a lot of issues too.
Yeah, I can't use that one. So that was the one I made the exception and picked a different cover. And then there was another one I did use it, and I don't know if they changed it in America, but like I talked about the Smurfs. I don't know. I forget what they're called in is Smurfs.
Where are they from?
Smurfs from France.
French.
I think
is it French? Okay. Yeah, I forgot what they're originally called, but that first issue they've got it's got an image of this black Smurf, like the color black, and it's like In the American version, they changed it to a purple Smurf. But I use that. I mean, if you want to look at that as something, I don't think that's what it. At least as far as I know, didn't have anything to do with race. It was just But so
that wasn't the intent.
Yeah. So, but just going through that and trying to find good examples for stuff that I could use for kids.
Yeah.
So I think Bone is just one that
Bone
Calvin Hobbes and
so. This makes me proud of my sister, but like my sister is a librarian at the time was working at this school where the parents banned Bone. They actually banned Bone.
Oh, like they did
from the school, and my sister actually contacted the legal fund, the Comic Defense Legal Fund.
Yeah.
And they sent her all this literature to help her out in like advocating to get it back in the library, and she did. But they were trying to get it banned because one of the characters smoked a cigar.
Oh, yeah, that was something that was funny because now that it's weird because like I was watching some old yesterday. I was watching some old like on Disney Plus. the old goofy stuff ones, like how to ski, how to do all that stuff.
Yeah.
And they've got, it's just like warnings on it, and you don't even think about it because it wasn't a big deal. Like there's one part where he's like smoking a pipe, and then of course I bet there's a warning in front of this, and yeah, it says depictions of tobacco or whatever like that. But
Right.
I don't, I don't know. I mean, I grew up reading comics with where Wolverine smoked a cigar, and there was nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe I can't speak for everyone, but there's
even
nothing,
Looney Tunes, they used to smoke cigars all the time.
Yeah, but there was
And that
nothing
was
in
like a
there that
gag.
made me want to smoke, because of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, but it's also, it could be whatever, because like my parents didn't smoke, but like, my grandparents did. But
Yeah.
for me, and I love my grandparents, but I never looked at them as cool, so it wasn't a cool thing for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
I I know my
didn't get
grandma
into-
smokes. I'm not trying to be like my grandma, so that was. But I guess it could be a different situation.
I
but it's
personally
just kind
didn't
of
get
weird.
into smoking because of like literature or books. What got me into smoking was other kids that were smoking, and I wanted to smoke. So but I didn't do it because I was like, oh, there's a cool camel on this package or something. Like
Right.
I think. So Brianna said she had an 11-year-old tell her debut novel, which was heavily toned down by her publisher, was lame, and she said, I wasn't surprised when I found out I'd watched Game of Thrones. So it's like, there's, I'm not saying 11-year-olds should be watching Game of Thrones or anything. It's just, I think people forget sometimes what it's like to be a kid, like, because it's like, as a kid, you're not, I don't know. To me, it's interesting when it comes from, people who generally are kind of supposedly against the idea of like over coddling children or having participation trophies. And then to have those same people be like, this person can't, like, as a 14-year-old or 13-year-old handle reading like a bad word. I don't know. It just seems like a weird double standard,
Hey, real quick, I'm going to mute myself and make myself lunch, but I'll be listening and I'll be back on.
Word. I might actually disappear for like 2 seconds because we've reached that hour mark. And anybody who watches my streams, well, we're over the hour mark because you guys are awesome and interesting.
Cool.
But I got to disappear for a second, get a coffee refill, and participate in that terrible smoking habit of my own. So I'll be right back. But feel
You
free
smoke,
to.
Josh? I'm gonna smoke too.
That's
I
right.
smoke.
Now I'm inspired.
And I would not
Now I
encourage
wanna
it.
go
'Cause
smoke.
Yeah, I do want to actually talk about that because it's like there is like a terrible habit to it. I was just talking the other day with a friend about how, like, what got us into this stupid thing in the first place. It's a terrible habit. All right.
For me, I never was a regular smoker, but when I did smoke, it was because
You're a cool smoker.
Because to look cool. Which, by the way, kids, it makes you look awesome, and women will want to be with you.
Yes. Especially when you're hacking up a lung.
Please continue promoting illegal products.
Yeah.
To promote it on
No,
YouTube.
actually, it was from once I got up to college, and you're in the bars. Like, there's always a guy who smokes, and it's real easy. Like, you're sitting there drinking.
He gets the ladies.
And he gets all the ladies. No, it's like there's cigarettes out, and it's like, okay, I'll have one. That's how it started. So it wasn't like I saw Bugs Bunny do it and it looked so good. Like, it was because I was at a bar with people who were smoking.
Yeah, I think that's how. Because I used to smoke when I was a youth, and it was like that too. Like my friends kind of smoked, and they're like, "Well, I'll try it," and but I wasn't like peer pressured. It was just like, "Oh, like, I'm gonna go do this and try it." And I didn't really like it. I would smoke a little bit more, but like, I was even like made fun of because at first I didn't know how to smoke, and they're like, "What? It's easy." And
Sorry, this is a little promotion, but I'm having this delicious
Or Marlboro.
coffee out of my Swizzle Stick Army mug, which is a Jim Lujan mug. Okay, that was it. I just wanted to do a quick plug.
well, I thought you were gonna promote a coffee brand.
No, just
A
a Jim
delicious
Lujan's.
mountain roasted coffee.
Yeah, I'm just saying my coffee tastes a lot better in a Jim Lujan product is all.
Oh, okay. You know what? That reminds me. I'll be right back.
I feel like Frank is going to come back with another Jim Lujan product, maybe.
Yeah.
All right, guys. This is an interesting thing. I kind of enjoy live streams because I've noticed they get into kind of weird topics that you necessarily may not even bring up, like in a shorter format, and it's kind of fun. Like I don't know, I enjoy it.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Do I have my Anna Rob Mask Woman mag available on her Teespring store? Link in my videos.
Nice.
Wow.
Nice.
When I drink tea, I drink it out of this mug.
I don't always drink
Sometimes
tea,
I
but when
spill
I
it.
do.
So when I do, it's from this mug.
I like
Or
that.
coffee.
That's a good example of something, and I bet like maybe Corey or Gary will chime in on this, but like one of the best pieces of advice I feel like I got as a young artist that I ended up actually putting on my business card was to shamelessly self-promote. And I was like, really? And they're like, yeah, that's the only way you get work. I was like, okay.
Yeah.
You gotta be willing to go out there, I think. I'm still not great at it, but the best advice I ever got from anybody, I remember I was at the first company I worked for out of school. I was technically in their accounting department, but on the side I would do like graphics for their website, and if they needed illustrations for their manual or whatever, like I was doing a lot of graphic design and illustration on the side for the company. Whenever I was caught up on my normal job, they would allow me. It's like, okay, well, we need some illustrations or we need something for the website or whatever. And I was doing that, and I was kind of secretly hoping, and that's the important part of this, secretly hoping that eventually someone upstairs would recognize, like, this is Gary's true strength. Why don't we pull him out of finance and make like a staff graphic design position for him? And it never manifested. And that's when I've told this story in other podcasts. Like they came to me and they're like, we don't really have much use for you in the finance department unless you decide to go back to school and get an accounting degree. And I wasn't going to do that, so I just left. And I put in my notice, and it was like one of my last few days. I was talking to this other guy in the office who was one of the business strategy people. And we were just it was like I was walking around saying goodbye to people. I was visiting his office, and I shared that with him. I was like, I guess I kind of always hoped they would do something with me like that. He's like, did you ever pitch that to them? And I said, no. Like, did you ever write up like a proposal? Like anything? I was like, no. And he's like, so you just kind of wanted them to fairy godmother you, like just like appear and say like, Gary, we can tell what your dream is, and here it is, and he's like, this is going to be a hard lesson, but you got to recognize that no one is sitting thinking about you.
Yeah.
Like they're thinking about themselves. They're thinking about that's on their plate, on their mind, on their career. No one rarely, like very, very rarely is a supervisor sitting in his office thinking like, how can I help one of my people succeed? And he's like, you've got to go out there and let people know, hey, this is what I can do for you.
Yeah.
This is what I have to offer. I think I can value add in this way. Like you have to be able to do that, because if you're waiting for them just to kind of knock on your door, it's not going to happen.
Dude, that's great advice. The other thing is like having, being a supervisor, it's surprising how many people don't realize that, like, if you actually put together a proposal and you explain the cost benefit of like whatever it is you're proposing, and you do a little bit of that legwork to prove that it's something you actually want, then it tends to happen. But what's surprising is the amount of people who say they want something. This is like, this will tie into cartooning too, but it's like, there's a lot of people who say they want to do comic books. And then there's out of that number of people, there's a very small amount of people willing to do the work to do it. And then when they do the work, there's even a smaller amount of people who are willing to kind of put in the legwork to actually like promote it, or to like seek out like a way to get it out there, or self-publish it, whatever it is, So I think that's like really excellent advice, because like part of advocating for yourself or for something you want is actually in a weird way kind of proving it's something you actually want,
Yeah. 100%. And it smarted at the time because I knew he was right. Like, and that made it really hurt.
Yeah.
Where I was like, like that kind of burns. But
Yeah.
you're 100% right. And that's why sometimes, and this is a little Darwinian, but sometimes when I hear from creatives who are like,
Sometimes
I like easily discouraged.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Part of me thinks like this is probably good that they're discouraged and they're dropping it, because if they're pushed off the trail this easily, there's no way they're going to make it.
Yeah.
It's maybe good that they're dropping out now, because it's only going to get way harder.
Yeah.
There's
that's so true.
I was talking about something like this on Adam Lore's stream, which I think is private because we started ranting about stuff towards the end. But I mentioned that my philosophy, I think a lot of people that watch these and know me, like I say, make comics, not excuses, and that's like a mentality that I started adopting. And today, talking with Adam, I made the connection that kind of came from something that Corey told me once in a chat in one of the Artcasters, I think, or 48-hour art check, where he told me just jump in, make your first comic, and keep doing it. Like, don't stop. And I took that and I ran with it, and now I have like this mindset, and so that like people can think that I'm being hard on them and saying like, don't take breaks, or there's no excuse for you to stop making. I'm not. There's legitimate reasons if you can't make it for like you need to do something else or take care of yourself. But like if you're making constant excuses why you can't make a comic, then it's not for you. Either do it or don't.
Yep.
Totally. And okay, two things. First of all, Squatchy, I am actually working right now. That's why I'm not looking at the camera. I've been working this whole time. Second,
yeah, I was gonna say, like, Squatch, if you notice like moments of
I had with my girlfriend just the other day, I was talking about the first time in my life.
How is Mary?
She's doing good. I don't like that you remember her name, but she's doing good.
Wait, someone just messaged me. Don't say my name. Oh, sorry.
Nice.
Never mind.
My girlfriend.
That was Harry.
No, but I was having a conversation with her the other day, and to me, this is very similar to that kind of the whole topic of like just do it. Basically, I remember the first time. It's a silly thing, but I remember the first time I took a trip on my own volition as a quote unquote grown up. And I was working at that same company where I was in the finance department, and I was fascinated by pictures of and this is inviting some snarky comments from Frank, but the Hoh rainforest in Washington State.
Sorry, I find that funny too.
HOA. But it's the only rainforest in North America. And it looks magical, like a fairy tale or something. And I was like, God, I want to go there someday. And it occurred to me, wait a minute. I have a job. I have money. Like, I could go this weekend if I wanted. Why not? Like, I could do that anytime. And there's sometimes just realizing, like, whatever you want your life to be, it sounds so cliche, it sounds so simple, but you just kind of have to just make that decision. Like, I think we sometimes get caught into thinking like opportunities will present. The world will open up and there'll be this perfect opportunity, or like there'll be some perfect impetus, something will nudge us and then we'll know that's the time. No, you can just start doing it. Just start doing it, whatever it is. And that to me plays into like make art, not excuses. It's just, if you want to be a comic person or a painter or a musician or whatever, start fiddling tomorrow. Like it's a little late, but like tomorrow, do it tomorrow. Start.
Yeah. And honestly, like if I wanted to be like a professional athlete, I'm not going to be a professional athlete. Like my entire life, I've never been good at it, no matter how hard I tried to play sports. So there's also that element too. So I don't want to be like one of those people who's like out there saying like, oh, like anyone can do it. It's like, no,
you can do anything.
Yeah, I
Right.
mean, there are definitely artists who are like way better than other artists, and to kind of pretend that isn't the scenario is just like to put your head in the sand, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
But there is but there is a difference between being a professional illustrator, a professional artist, or a professional athlete, or whatever, and
Yes,
saying, I'm gonna choose to be athletic and competitive. you know?
exactly, dude.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the difference is, one is this is what I'm going to do with myself, and the other one is this is something that I'm going to do that involves a bunch of other people making decisions about me,
Yep.
and you can't control other people.
Yep.
Yeah.
So like I
think
can't
you need
I
to be
can't
wise
say
about what part you actually have control over.
Totally.
I can't go out and say I'm going to draw Spider-Man for Marvel. But I
Right.
can say I'm going to get really good at anatomy. I'm going to get really good at illustration. I'm going to get really good at composition, and that thing might happen. But there are so many other things that are outside of my control.
Yeah.
It's a weird thing to hang your hat on.
Well,
the
and
weird-
I think, and that's where I think some people can start to get miserable and feel despair is like,
Yeah.
Because they're like, well, my goals haven't happened. And it's like, well, what were your goals? And it's like, I wanted to, be published by DC.
I wanted to be a multi-billionaire.
And not have that happen. You don't have control over that part. Like, you have control over whether you're an artist getting better and better, like Corey said.
Yeah, and like the other thing is like just to highlight what Corey said, it's like I like playing guitar, and I had a very similar moment to what Gary was describing, where it's like I just like it was like 2 years ago or something. I just was like really missing playing in bands, maybe 3 years ago now. And I was like, it's nothing I want to do like professionally anymore, but I just really enjoy it,
Yeah.
And so I just talked to a friend who we were having conversations every time we hung out of like, wasn't it fun back when we used to play gigs and stuff like that? And it's like, wait a minute, we live right near each other. We both play guitar.
Right.
Like, let's just play guitar and like write
Why
music.
aren't we doing it?
Like, there's nothing stopping someone at any age from just like picking up a guitar and writing a song, even if they suck at it, like, and that's the thing is like, I would be lying prior to that to be like, I want to write music if I wasn't just writing music. And that's kind of the key of it, I don't know. I think, it definitely is one of those things of like, I think a lot of people say they want stuff they don't really want too. I think that might be kind of what's at odds,
Right.
Where it's like,
How many? The other thing, it's kind of it sounds like a hot take, but I really mean it, and I don't mean it in a judgy way. Sometimes it hasn't happened because it's not important to you.
Yeah.
You think it is. Like you like being able to, you say like, yeah, someday I'm gonna, learn to play the guitar, whatever.
Yeah.
And I wonder why haven't I done it yet? It's like because maybe you just don't really want to.
Yeah.
There's other things you want to do more.
Yeah. And I always like, I tend to think, even with myself, where it's like, I have some someday thoughts, but a lot of someday thoughts, if they're like not being acted on today with like some kind of back plan, I shouldn't be surprised if those don't come to fruition, like if I'm like, someday I'm going to get better at exercising and I never exercise. Well, then like, I don't know, maybe I won't someday. Like that's a high likelihood, I think we have Scott back from his lunch break. I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah, I just had to unmute myself. Yeah.
How was your lunch? What'd you have?
It's good. I had some soup. I'm on this diet, so it's a lot of smoothies and soup. So
nice. So you're not somedaying your diet, Scott. You're actually
someday I'll be on a diet. To what Gary
luckily, I got a head
saying
start
that,
after I had COVID. I lost a few pounds, and I'm like, well, I might as well just continue on this track.
Yeah,
because I had started it. Started the diet, and then the next week I got COVID, so I was like, and then at that point I just restarted the diet. But
nice.
That was
I mean, not about the COVID thing. That's not so nice, but the other.
COVID, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Good job.
Something when I start seeing people, people getting sick and survive, of course, and they come back thinner and lose weight.
Wait, Frank. What do you mean, of course?
I don't know. I was trying to get in there because everyone was talking.
Okay, got it. Go ahead.
when
I read
what
disappointment.
was
Like they survived, of course.
Sorry.
I don't even remember what I
Okay.
said.
Well, you
I'm
were
sorry. I'm sorry. We derailed Frank. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
you,
for
you
derailing
totally threw off what I was saying. Now I don't even know
Okay.
what I said.
Okay, well, you
Some
were
of my
talking
friends
about.
survived,
Got it.
and I was happy that they survived. But after they survived, I would see that they lost weight, and it was like, and it was funny because me and my friend were talking like sometimes like I wish I kind of not wish, but like, oh, I kind of want COVID now, but you know what? I don't really want to risk that, so I'm just gonna work on
Yeah.
my
Well, I'll tell you,
health.
I still, as you can tell, I still have that cough lingers.
And I don't
It
want
comes
COVID.
and goes
Yeah.
afterwards.
Yeah.
So I would definitely
I had a
get rid of
lingering.
this
I don't know
cough.
if I had COVID, but
I
yeah.
gained whatever weight I lost back and
Yeah.
get rid of this
Yeah.
cough, and then I just lose it
Yeah.
through the diet. So
Oh yeah, dude.
I'm not advocating getting COVID to lose weight.
Yeah, that's why I was like, that's
It's
one
a
of the
great
reasons I
weight
meant.
loss program. It's
Yeah,
I can
that's
go.
true.
I can go lick a doorknob right now so I can get on that diet.
right.
Oh man. Well, there's
You
a
remember
couple people
old
that lost
SNL
last.
skit?
Yeah,
It
I
had
was gonna.
Jim Carrey, and it was
Yeah.
his weight loss program was Ride the Snake, and it was basically get on heroin. I think it was.
Oh,
I thought that was a
okay.
dragon.
Yeah.
That's
It's a
pretty
snake?
classic.
Ride the dragon.
Right.
Okay.
Well,
Oh my
at least in SNL, it was Ride the Snake. But yeah, I don't know. And he would every time he did it. Yeah, it was anyway. Whatever.
That's hilarious, dude. Yeah, I feel like yeah, I mean it seems like a decent weight loss plan as long as you're comfortable with like losing your entire body weight.
Yeah.
So, you know,
Like,
if
that's
you're comfortable
one
with that,
possibility.
yeah. So
Actually, I
Another
have
joke.
to, like,
Stephen Wright would say this joke. I found a pill, a weight loss pill. You will lose 100% weight. It's called cyanide.
I haven't heard that one. I thought I heard all the Stephen Wright bits, but I haven't heard that one.
That's
I
awesome.
think it was Stephen. There's this pill. I think it was Stephen Wright, if I remember.
do the voice.
There's this pill. It was
He
just all the
always
weight.
sounded like he had just rolled out of bed.
Yeah.
That's
can't
good delivery,
do it.
man. Oh, I am like in this weird zone of like creation right now. My moment of spacing out while drawing. So like Gary, what are you working on as we're hanging out then? You're like kind of on those free.
I'm working on
Just trying to comfort Squatch here when this question.
Yeah, I'm getting my as people know, I sometimes make little SketchUp sets for my comics just for reference, just so I know, like, because I'm kind of obsessive like that. And it's like if I have a coffee cup on a table and then I change angles in the comic and I want to know, like, so where would that coffee cup be? Like, it's a easy way for me to kind of keep myself oriented if I know, like, what would be visible in the background if I'm in.
Oh yeah.
You know, like in 75, if I'm in this kitchen and I turn around and look this way, can you still see this chair? Can you still see this fridge? Whatever. Like, I like that stuff. It allows me to relax when I'm drawing and concentrate just on the rendering, like the actual drawing, as opposed to worrying about like what would be in frame and perspective and all that stuff. It just gives me an easy, quick reference.
Yep.
So there's a kind of a complicated room in the first few pages of the comic. It's the first. I'm looking at my layouts here. Like the first 12 or 13 pages, with a lot in it. There's chairs, there's a projector, there's coffee cups, there's a wastebasket, there's stuff on the wall, you know, all that stuff. And I'm making little things just.
So this is going to be the nightmare room to render because you have to do that projector.
Yeah, well, the projector is a little bit of a. That's the thing. I'm not sure exactly how I'm going to draw yet. Like the idea of a dark room with highlights and. I don't know. I haven't decided like if I'm going to go just full like Frank Miller and do it very harsh or what. The thing is, later in the comic, there's a room where the lights get shut off and it's sort of, in theory, a dark room.
Ooh.
That would probably be where I would be doing more of a Frank Miller, like little highlights, little spotlights. But I don't know. Like it's really fine when you start doing it. But this is me just getting a sense of spatial relativity, you know.
All right, so my pack of crazy wolves is flipping out real quick. So yeah, we have a lot of dogs in our house right now. We have family as well staying with us, so it's like multiple people's dogs. I'm gonna mute it, so feel free to keep talking. I don't want to bark over you guys.
All right. So Gary, to what you were saying earlier about that you wanted your company to like reach out to you, and there's this big book of all this information. You might have heard of it called the Bible. And it was one of the verses that I like in there.
I have heard of that. I'm aware of that. Yeah.
One of the verses in there is like, "Ask and you shall receive," and that is something that I need to like. Sometimes I need to remind myself, like, man, I wanted this to happen, but I didn't ask for it. I didn't look for it. I didn't seek for it. I was just like, I want it, but I never did anything. So that's what it reminded me when you're saying that.
Totally.
Sometimes it's just asking. Yeah, so it's like, hey, can I do this? Sure, go ahead. Oh, okay. I thought it was gonna be a lot harder, and sometimes it is harder. But like, so it's just,
and in retrospect, like it's one of those things. But this is the benefit of time.
Yeah,
I'm glad it didn't.
It didn't happen.
Yeah,
because then I would have been stuck at that company for longer, you know. And it was good that I went out. So it was just a different path to the same destination, maybe. But
yeah, I was thinking about that recently with Jacobs because I had originally finished that for a different publisher a long time ago, like 5 or 6 years ago, and then was like subsequently like they dropped out of that deal, and so it was kind of left spinning. But I'm kind of glad it didn't release at that time in retrospect.
Yeah,
because I feel like I'm much more seasoned in like knowing how publishing works and prepping files and like kind of like being more comfortable with some of the legwork that I'm going to have to do to promote a book. Whereas I feel like if I had been like a little younger and less seasoned, I might have kind of made some real like ego mistakes. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah.
No, that totally makes sense.
But like, you know, whereas now like I have a great editor and she made some awesome suggestions that made the book better. I feel like me like 10 years ago, I might have been like, no, I'm a genius. Like, you know, like, you know what I mean? I don't know. Like I had unearned ego about things.
It's my vision. I'm an artiste.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
no, totally. And like I think you know, for a long time I didn't pursue basically art as a career, and I kind of had to gradually. I mean, since Frank brought up the Bible, like I needed that time, the 40 years in the desert, to sort of figure out, like, no, you know, I actually do want to do this for a living.
Yeah,
and I think that it's better that way, because had I pursued it right from the start, I think I would have made a lot of mistakes in choosing where I wanted to go. I think I had a lot of bad ideas about where I wanted to go, and I think I would have been pulled along in ways that, like, in my previous job, I met a lot of young graphic designers and illustrators, and they're so desperate and hungry for work, they'll just take anything you put in front of them.
Yeah.
And as a result, 10 or 15 years can go by, and they're doing, spec work for some graphic design firm that, like, and they want to shoot themselves. Like they hate it so much. And it's because I think they got in this idea of, like, I just need any job I can get.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they get better and better at doing that, and therefore those are the only jobs they're getting. And wouldn't you know, like that's what they end up doing for the rest of their career. I kind of was able to come to it a little later, a little older, a little wiser, a little more seasoned, and be more choosy about, well, what exactly do I want to do?
Yeah. Yeah, I 100%.
Yeah.
I've noticed a lot of conflict too, and this is in like relationships or
With me
like
and Gary.
working relationships. A lot of what it boils down to is a lack of communication, where it's like, you know, people will make assumptions about other people, even in friendships, right? Where it's like, I'll see these like giant dramas happen online sometimes where somebody will make an assumption about someone else and they don't confirm with the other person, and then it just blows up and blows up and blows up. And it's like, nobody bothered to just go like, hey, I'm going to communicate why this thing's an issue or whatever, and then like we'll work it out. And it is kind of amazing how far that goes. I don't know if Corey, like, do you notice that with like younger designers or students where like a lack of communication will kind of lead to like sort of conflicts or issues?
A little bit, especially with their clients. The main thing that I see is a lack of communication leads to complete and total paralyzing inaction.
Yeah.
Like very few people at that age, like the ones that do this, I want to like, I remember them, and I even like have a little note in my phone where I take their name down so that years from now I can remember, because it's so rare that somebody can take action in the face of ambiguity. But most of the time, they go, I don't know the answer to this thing, and so then they just sit and they just wait. Like no one asks, no one is like, hey, what did you mean by that? Or like, what do you want me to do? Or I would like to do something. You know, is there a path I can take here or whatever? You know, like most of the time they're just like, oh, that wasn't clearly spelled out, or I didn't understand it, and then that was it. That's the end of all of the thing. They have that thought, and then there's no more communication past that. And so I think the current generation that's in college, I don't even think they get to the conflict stage. I just think they immediately shut down. And so there's so few conflicts because there's so little action that most of the time they're just waiting to be told what to do. And if they don't understand what they're told, they don't ask any questions. They just don't do it.
They just don't do it. No, I see that. I hate to say it, but I see it in adult life at work all the time. Like, it's like, what's going on with that? It's like, well, we were unclear what you meant, so so nothing happened.
Yeah, like no follow up or
exactly. Yeah.
Wow. I am.
Hey, Scott, sorry, I've got a real quick question.
Go for it.
Printful shipping. How do you calculate printful shipping?
Man.
Because I'm trying. You mentioned that. And I'm like, I don't want to draw anything right now. So I'm trying to. I thought right now.
I mean, from what I remember, it was like a flat shipping. I think it. I don't think I'm using Printful at the moment, but I thought it was like a $5 shipping. I thought it was like a flat shipping.
Okay.
Like I said, it may have changed. It's been a while since I've used Printful, but yeah, I didn't hear what you said, Corey, when I mentioned about the T-shirt. You said something, but I didn't hear what you said.
Oh, I'm trying to make it available right now.
Okay.
You keep bugging me about it, and I keep not doing it.
Oh hell yeah, dude!
Yeah, I keep forgetting because I mean I'm doing like right now. If I do T-shirts, I usually just do them on Amazon, but. Right. It's hard to get into Amazon print on demand. There
we go. Okay, single product $3.99. Additional products. Okay. Got it. Found it.
Is it like a $5 flat fee or what?
It's a $4 flat fee for one product, and then $1.50 for each additional product added to that one order.
Okay.
So
yeah, I do need to get back into doing Printful eventually because I might want to do like an Etsy shop and have all that stuff. You know, like somebody orders a shirt.
It's the thing about Squarespace that I don't like is I don't want to pay the extra whatever a year, $60 a year or whatever.
Yeah. So that's the reason why I stopped. Now I remember why I stopped using that.
So but then I'm trying this workaround where you can have a Gumroad tie-in to your Printful store, and then you can put Gumroad embedded into your Squarespace site. And I'm like, just wondering if I'm making my life unnecessarily more difficult by trying to not pay $60 a year.
Yeah. Well, I don't know.
But
the
then I
latest
think I'm
video,
gonna sell one of these T-shirts to you, and no one else on the planet will buy them. So
the latest video that I did, I don't know if you caught it, but I got it was Google reached out to me through they've got like a incubator where they develop new products, and one of the products they're working on is called Kaya.
yeah,
And it's basically if you have access to the merch shelf, I think you need like 10,000 subscribers, but
I think I'm only at 4.
typically you can only do like t-shirts and stuff like that, but this allows you to load digital products to their platform and then put them on the merch shelf. You can also upload any product from any other online store onto there and have it show up on the merch shelf. And also it's not open yet, but they'll have a like a marketplace where you can go and you can do that too.
Really?
So yeah.
Pretty cool.
So yeah. So even if you don't have access to the merch shelf, and the thing is, like the percentage that they take is like almost nothing. It's like, I think it's like 5%. And usually like design cuts, they'll take like 50, I think. Of course, I love design cuts because they do a lot of promotion and stuff for me too. So it's worth it. But like, I don't know, creative market, they take, I don't know, I think they take like 40% or something like that. But I mean, I don't know if it's just a way for them to get everything on there before they raise that. But I mean, it's really like nothing. And I don't think it costs anything if you're importing products from another site. But if you upload a digital product directly to the thing, if you sell it, I think they only take like 5%. It's crazy.
How much? Or how do you spell Kaya?
It's Qaya, and you need to you also need to apply for it. So I think I forgot what that if you the best way to do it is if you go to that video, there's a link in there. It's like
one more time.
Qaya, but you might not find it for there. It's something like the URL is something like area 120, which is Google's incubator / Kaya or something like that.
Right.
But there's a thing where you can apply to be considered to be a vendor on there. So I mean, it wouldn't hurt to apply for anyone, really.
Yeah, I applied. I don't expect them to give me a.
Well, and also it's in beta test, so it's super early. Like that video, I haven't seen anyone do a video on it other than myself. So, but eventually, I mean, it's Google, so they're going to want to roll it out to everyone eventually.
Right.
You know,
it would be really cool. Like I'm
cool
excited
thing is,
about it.
if you like for Instagram, because you only have that one link, and I know you can do link trees and stuff like that, but this can be like a one-stop place for all your, whether it's digital, physical, or whatever. You could take every single marketplace that you're on.
Well, especially like you, who really is like, I would say your primary platform is YouTube. Like it'd be
exactly. And having my digital products under that merch shelf, because I don't sell any T-shirts on there. It was just useless. I mean, just people don't buy T-shirts from me, but they buy digital stuff. So having that show up right there when I talk about that stuff, and if it's right there, they can click on that merch shelf. That's
nice
a thing for me.
I wanted to do a real quick call out, just shout out to Mama Soto, who's usually part of our night gang, and she's like, "What? Yeah. There's a stream? Like it's not 3 a.m." And then also Jim Lujan said, "Did Gary showcase his voiceover talent yet?" I don't know what that's referencing.
I saw that.
Well, I sent it in only in the messenger, but yeah.
Oh, it's in the messenger. I gotta share that at some point. The downside is I'm like nowhere near I don't know if anyone's near their monitor where they could like maybe share that on the StreamYard or something. Are we allowed to?
He said I asked him and he said share it everywhere and anywhere. So
anyone want to pull that up that like has access?
It might be hard for me to do with my setup the way it is here. But.
Corey, would that be possible? I don't know.
Maybe
with your setup, it's
I'm gonna
hard
get
to.
lost if I have a bunch of. I can do it later.
We'll do it later. How about that, guys?
Yes.
Maybe once I finish this panel, we'll use that as a thing. You know what? I'm going to use an incentive. If you want to pull me away from inking my page, pay me. So if you guys want to see Gary's sneak peek before this panel is done, send a super chat. And if not, we'll do it after the panel's done. See,
it's been a lot of fun recording lines for Jim. It's been. I'm honored and excited to be a part of his next thing. So
isn't it cool? It's just like Jim. So anybody who's like not familiar with Jim, which if you guys watch any of our streams, like honestly any of our channels, I don't think anybody isn't familiar with Jim. But if you aren't, check out Jim Lujan's cartoons, because like to be able to be a voice in one of them is like really cool. It's fun to feel like
I've arrived, and it's not even a giant part. Like it's not as big as yours was in Pleasure Beast, but it's still it's enough. It's enough where I've had to do like a little bit of recording, and it's fun to do like different versions and send them to him, and like, what do you think of this? What do you think of this? It was fun finding the voice.
I could see you doing really great voice acting. I do remember seeing I think I did hear it in our chat a while ago, and it was good and funny. And it still has like a Gary vibe, but it's like definitely a character.
Yeah, I'm definitely not like I don't know. Someone told me it's vaguely Homer Simpson, which I didn't. Now I have to re-listen to it. I haven't listened to it since, but he had given me as a note. He was like, "I'm picturing something like Harry Dean Stanton, the actor." And I don't know if you guys aren't familiar. Like, it doesn't really matter. But like, I was like, okay, and I knew who he was, but I was like, just to refresh my memory, I went onto YouTube and pulled up some Harry Dean Stanton. And it was funny because I found his voice almost totally unremarkable. Like, I didn't know. It wasn't like a thing where it's like, I want something like Bobcat Goldthwait, where it's like, oh, okay, I know exactly what you're talking about. This was like but he did have kind of like a hollow, kind of airy sound to his voice. So that's what I kind of started with. That was my starting point. But
I'm excited. I don't know. Anything Jim's doing is fun, man.
Yeah.
I don't think I've seen a Jim Lujan cartoon I didn't enjoy.
The story, what I know of it, sounds like it's going to be great. So I can't wait. I can't wait to see it. It's going to be done like next weekend, right, Jim?
Yeah, that's true. I think it's coming out tomorrow.
Yeah.
It's going to debut on the Truckle Crave Fest. So tune in, guys.
Yes. When is that? Frank, if anybody just hopped on.
Monday. If you're not familiar with the Truckle Cravecast, just look it up on YouTube, and that is the show that I do with Anna Robb. We interview guests, we talk about comics, we talk about creativity, anything that comes from the top of our heads. Lately, we've been talking about dinosaurs, so that's pretty cool. And Jim Lujan will be a guest this coming Monday, 7 p.m. Central, 5 p.m. PDT.
Where Jim will exclusively talk about dinosaurs. That's what's happening.
I'm curious, which guest was he in the lineup? What number of this most recent season of?
I believe Jim is guest number 3.
Number 3, and who was number 1 again?
It was a bearded fellow. I think he goes by the name of Gary Hodges.
That's right. Well, that order sounds correct to me, Frank.
Wait,
so
Gary, did you go on before me?
What's that?
Were you on the Toronto cast?
No, he came.
Of this latest season.
No, actually.
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
Well, this.
Because I think I was the original.
For this year, it's like this.
Yeah, if you want to.
He's the first guest of the year.
Last couple months, sure. But I think I was the first one on, wasn't I, Frank?
Yeah, I think Corey was the first of the Artcasters crew, and like our little community. So it was Corey, Josh, and
bring
Scott.
on somebody to work out.
Appreciate you rubbing that in, Corey. Appreciate that a lot.
Well, I mean, you know, I know
Joshua was on during the
Gary's
great
trying to steal my
snowstorm
time.
of South Texas.
Yeah,
Where
that's
I-
true. That's true. That was
Where I couldn't get on.
that was just a sign from the heavens. What had I done? I need to understand what I had done to cause that snowstorm. That's what I need to do. Is understand my intention there.
Probably your love for Windsor K. Smith. I mean,
Yeah.
I think that's the most obvious.
I
answer.
think it was like Josh can't be on this
Or
one. But he
Windsor
can be
McKay.
on
I'm
the
sorry, I
next one.
blended Barry Windsor Smith and Windsor McKay there, but you know.
Well, it's okay. I mean, Windsor Smith and monsters, you know. So, which, by the way, if you guys want to see like a really good guest thing of Gary Hodges, you can check out back when Corey and I were doing the indie review show. Gary did a really good monsters.
Thank you. I know I sold some copies of Monsters because a couple friends of mine picked it up as a result. So.
And in that episode, Gary was definitely not the first. No, I'm just kidding. I think you might have actually, been the first.
I think he was the only one.
First and only, I think. Yeah.
I think so. And honestly, Gary,
It was so
Gary
good.
does
You were
really
like,
good reviews.
can't top
Yeah.
it.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
All right, guys, we need to keep some kind of weird passive aggression going just for fun.
Yeah, that's enough. That's enough. Enough of the love fest already.
We need more. Yeah. Let's duke it out, guys. What do we disagree on? What can we get angry about?
Well, I mean, I would love to. Here, I got an idea. Oh, this will be good. As someone who didn't watch it, give me a quick Cliff's Notes of the NFT conversation.
I think that's actually not a bad idea.
I've been hearing about that for like 3 days now.
And actually, I don't want to dip into NFTs, but I do think Scott listened to what we had to say, and I'm still formulating an opinion on it. Scott is obviously not in the same camp, so I am kind of curious. Outside of Artcasters, it might not be a bad thing to talk about. I don't know.
Well, there we go.
But yeah,
just give me, like I said, if you can boil it down to 3 sentences. Josh's position was Corey's position.
I'll boil it down. I'll boil it down to a couple sentences.
Corey, boil
I
yours
was
to a
never
couple.
able to finish a thought without being accused of murdering. That's
okay. Already, we're off to a good start. This is a good start.
If you could take, some sort of logical or illogical extreme position on some random word that I used in a sentence, that happened about every 35 seconds.
Fantastic. Okay, so I can tell you're all past it. It's water under the bridge. That's
I want to hear. I do want to hear Corey boil it down real quick. What your main issue is with NFTs, not a long.
Well, I think Josh should mute himself so Corey can at least finish his sentence.
I'm less talkative this time.
Let's see. Succinctly,
I know it's hard.
I feel like the community that surrounds it is built around being massively unethical, and that's at the foundation of the community.
You mean abortion, Corey?
Additionally to that, so Frank's just going to take the role of Josh in this.
No, Frank, no more. We don't want to go that far.
Additionally,
I'm sorry. This was Josh's position.
This is my position.
This is Corey's. Okay. I'll give mine.
Josh's position is just the devil's advocate because he's still trying to.
No, I think I have one roughly.
But at the time, you were.
I'm still working it
iron
out.
Sharpening iron. Which I think when it comes to debate, Josh is iron. I'm like a soft 10. Is kind of where I come up on that. So I think the community is built around unethical and dishonest practices, and then the software functionality is a flawed and cracking foundation that everybody is trying to build this decentralized new internet Web3 on. And I think there are significant privacy issues with that, and the functionality of it is problematic because what NFTs are is something that's built on the blockchain, that's minted, that doesn't change once it's serialized and claims to be unique. And the idea around the decentralized Web3 is basically that it's going to solve all of our problems by getting rid of government control and huge corporations and things like that. But there's no way that I can see that blockchain, cryptocurrency, or NFTs are going to solve that in any particular way, because they're not immoral, they're amoral, right? They're without moral judgment, and so just the arbiter of code is law, which is something that kind of throws around quite a bit. Being that computers are going to make the decisions, I think is a immature and hopeful view of how humanity functions. So I have those problems, and then in addition to that, it's another thing that is pushing rare and precious metals being mined, and shortages of video cards because they've got to be used, and then you've got these server farms that are unnecessarily using up energy to basically do proof of work and proof of stake is available.
And
So-
rebuilt the fort.
So it's
Gen-
like the same
generally-
problems
generally-
that crypto.
Sorry, say that again.
The
same
ball bearings
problems
lost
that
the
the-
tracking device.
Yeah, I made that point on the last discussion. Yeah.
Well, I mean,
Yeah,
NFTs. There's the argument that NFTs exist to
Now let's rebuild our fort. I was gonna say
promote
that.
people purchasing cryptocurrency. Like
I'm
the
rebuilding it.
reason they're being pushed and marketed is to get people into crypto.
Hey, man.
I think
So
there's
what-
some significant differences between those things. But
Was that the kind of rough point though, or was there anything missed? Like I know it's an overview, but on
Yep.
your stance. Okay, so
Okay, well, so that's Corey's.
I'll give
sort of
mine.
position.
I'll give mine real quick. I'll try to be quick. Both Corey and I are really verbose people, so it's very hard to for me. It's hard to be succinct. So stop me if I get too
that's
long.
necessarily a bad thing. I think
Yeah.
Twitter has taught us that thoughts need to be shorter and snappier, and that's not always. Can you imagine telling
Yeah.
an 18th century philosopher that? It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Anyway, go ahead.
But I'm going to try to boil it down. So stop me if I get too long-winded. My take on it so far is I could understand one of the objections stuck for me of Corey's, which was the fact that the crypto itself can't be recoded, which I actually thought was really a strength of it for privacy reasons, and ownership reasons. I think that's one of the reasons people are drawn to it, was the idea that it's literally it's a uniquely one-time thing. But the fact that it can't be edited
No, I'm the one who opens the gate.
was kind of like a nice thing. Initially, and now I can see where that's a problem, because basically, with most software, if there's a bug or something that needs to be fixed, or most code, you can update it and fix that. Whereas Corey very rightly pointed out that might be a problem. Other than that, I don't.
He's not like,
Sorry, my son's playing around here too. So, but if I'm trying to formulate it, but it's basically, I don't think I have much of an issue with it actually. I feel like the more I've thought about it, the more I don't really see a huge difference between it and cryptocurrency. And I think as long as the person selling it is open about the risks and isn't promoting it as the next big way to make $1 million. And I think as long as they're promoting it ethically and being honest about it, I think it's similar to any new technology where, if you want to be an early adopter in something, to me, I don't necessarily see that as a bad thing, as long as you're actually marketing it for what it is. It's an early system. The more we play with this new system, the more it might become more and more viable. And honestly, it's a way that artists can make money. So I don't necessarily see an issue with that either. And I was even thinking about initially, there was one other argument that almost stuck with me that Corey was making that I thought had validity, which was that it's a box and code and it's not attached to art. And initially that stuck with me, but then I was realizing, wait a second, what do I have here? I have a book. And I've done a million illustrations like this for clients where it's art that's a cover of a book. People aren't buying it for the art, right? The art is adorning a book. The book is the content that they're paying for. That's illustration, dude. Like illustrations, illustrating an article. People aren't going to the article for the illustration. The illustration is adorning and treating the article. So I feel like, to me, I feel like I understand the like kind of issues with it. I don't necessarily know if it's something I would dip into. It's not something I would spend my money on because of the gas prices and stuff like that. But I'm also very risk averse in general. And so I think as long as you're open about the risks and like, honestly, I can see it. I can see some of the objections and I can understand them, but I personally can't be like entirely opposed to it or promoting it or wanting to delve into a new territory as an artist. And I don't think it has to equate to like snake oil sales as long as you're actually being honest about what it is you're making. Like, I don't really see an issue with it. So, because I think the reason snake oil sales are so like bad in general, like the idea of a snake oil sale, is to dress it up as something it's not. Which to me, I think as long as you're not doing that, I don't know if I have an ethical quandary with it. Although I do understand some of the, like the non-updatable part, I could see that as being a real issue. That's basically where I'm at right now on it. So,
is it reductive to say? And if it is, I apologize because I'm working while I listen. But is it reductive to say that?
Sorry, that was way longer than 2 sentences.
No, that's totally fine.
Awesome. That was good.
Is it reductive to say that your position is basically buyer beware, and Corey's is, Corey, you're more concerned with like the moral hazard kind of, or the risks or the implications of.
I wouldn't say it's buyer beware for me, just to be clear. I don't even think it's buyer beware. I think it's like buyer
just be honest,
be aware. I don't know if that makes sense. Like buyer be aware, not buyer beware.
Okay.
Like, so you add an A before, like before where.
I'm gonna make a small but significant change there to that.
Yeah, because like I think as long as people know what they are buying, I don't know if it's necessarily bad. And I will say people have made money on it. So I can't say that it's like this terrible thing.
And this is a little bit of a ridiculous point, but people have made money off of sex trade.
Yes.
I mean, that's.
Well, no, I wasn't saying that to justify it morally. I was just saying that I couldn't retain my integrity and claim that it is necessarily a bad thing that it won't turn into a currency, because I think it's like very similar to cryptocurrency, like almost a mirror image of cryptocurrency. And right. I wouldn't tell a friend, go out there, cash out your life savings and buy Bitcoin. But I also wouldn't like tell a friend that Bitcoin is not necessarily going to become currency, because right now, like one single Bitcoin in the worst market dip we've seen in like 5 years is still like worth like $1 of Bitcoin is worth like what, like $37,000. So and it's a speculative market, but it's like, my point is I can't take that as a hard stance. I would make the same statement about crypto that I would about this, where it's like, if you get into it, it's a really toxic market. It's not even toxic, volatile market. But as long as you're aware of that and like whatever, go for it, Right. To be fair to Corey, he had pointed out one difference between it and crypto, which I think is a valid thing, and I'm still processing, which was the idea that in the crypto market, if I have one Bitcoin, I have a whole market of people buying one Bitcoin. Whereas with NFTs, it's like a unique identifier, which is half the appeal of it, but that also really limits your market on a person-to-person basis. So I heard and am processing that criticism. I don't know how I feel about that part. But so far, my stake is like, I don't really feel differently about it than I do about like Ethereum or Bitcoin or any of the other stuff,
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead, Corey. I think Corey was going to
It's,
answer you.
it's the greater fool theory. That's my main problem with it is that it itself is just a box you can put a little bit of code in, fairly limited code, and then it's uniquely identified. So just like anything else, like a website, or whatever, I don't think websites are good or evil, but depending on what people do with them, that could be a problem, right? Or it could be great. And so I don't have a problem with the technology itself, as long as people understand the limitations of that technology. My main problem is if you find a community of people, like let's say, 4chan or 8chan or something like that, right? And what if there is a worse version of those websites where the point of it is taking normal functionality of some technology and trying to scam as many possible people as they can and find a greater fool to pay more money than you paid to pass the hot potato? Like the entire incentive built in that community is to try to take advantage of people. I don't think it's a good thing.
Right.
And so but that doesn't make cars bad, but it makes drunk drivers bad.
Right.
So I think the way that the majority of the community is using NFTs, I think is morally bankrupt and hugely problematic.
Right.
And saying that, I don't fault artists for making money on it and whatever. And there's a lot of people that I find from the outside seem very moral and ethical that are involved, and that's fine. And a lot of my favorite artists are getting involved in it and making good choices. There are people that are trying to get involved to change the community and things like that. But currently, as it stands, it is one of the shadiest and worst places on the internet, and it's not functionally different than many other scams.
Right.
Okay. And I don't want to rehash, but I will say almost everything verbatim you said could apply to cryptocurrency as a whole. Scott,
Josh, and this is again not meant to be provocative. I'm curious. When you continue to pull it back to crypto, is it because, Corey, are you pro crypto? Is that like why is the relevance? How is crypto relevant?
For me, is that for Corey or me?
For you, because it seems like you continue to make that analogy, and I'm curious.
So the relevance would be in how I would treat it personally, because I've thought a lot about crypto, right? And like I have even dipped into crypto a little bit, and I'm not talking even a lot. Like I've literally maybe put like $1 into it, or maybe bought Doge as like a meme because I thought it was funny.
Right.
And I think there is a humor and a terrifying humor, but at the same time, a humor to a meme being able to have monetary value in a market. I kind of support a little bit of that, not a ton, but a little bit. But if like I had a friend who was like selling Dogecoin on the market, I wouldn't think they were immoral for doing it. Even though Dogecoin to an extent is a little bit of a pump and dump. So it's like, my point is like, I don't see like a moral issue with like Bitcoin. I do see a toxic fan base of it and stuff, but I don't feel like it's a reason to like write off. Like I've also had friends who've like bought houses with Bitcoin who got in early. And so it's like, and do I think that was unethical? I don't know, because it's something that's traded in the market. So it's like, that's kind of where I'm at with it. That's why I bring up crypto is like, I feel like if you're going to take a moral stance against NFTs for a lot of those reasons, then you would have to, I think you would be pressed to take that same moral stance and judgment against cryptocurrency in general, which I think would be like more morally consistent. I feel like that would be, if I were going to stand against NFTs, then I would have to be a person who didn't touch crypto at all.
I see.
I don't know if that makes sense, because I feel
it does. I was just curious. Yeah.
But you also made the same argument about the stock market and other speculative markets.
Yeah, I would agree. I think it's a slippery slope, and so I think it's hard to say you're going to take a hard line against speculation in a market when.
But I'm not taking a hard line against speculation.
Okay, so then we got to take. So I guess the main thing that I was bringing up is like then we need to stop bringing up speculation when we're going against it. So the speculative nature can't be part of it. The value conversation can't be part of it. The community and its toxicity can't be part of it. Why? So what is the critique outside of those three things? Because all of those could be lobbied against the same exact markets, like the similar markets, cryptocurrency and stocks.
I disagree on the third one.
On the stocks part?
The community is.
So you don't think like 4chan's really big on crypto and there's a lot of crypto bros in there?
There's definitely crypto bros. What I'm saying is I don't think that you can say that the communities are the same just because there are some elements of some things. I don't think I think the ratios are significantly different. And the whole time I said I'm not defending cryptocurrency. The only reason cryptocurrency came into play was because I was being honest that I've got a couple $100 in cryptocurrency that I've been playing. But there's a huge Venn diagram between cryptocurrency and NFTs. But I'm not talking about speculation. I'm talking about the active activity of trying to con people so that you don't get held. You're not holding an asset that you paid for when the bubble burst.
But see, it's weird because I think like you
can say the same thing. You could say the same thing about parts of the housing market. You could say the same thing about stocks. You could say the same thing about anywhere where there's speculation.
Yeah.
Right. But I'm saying that the vast majority, if not almost all NFTs are that. So the ratios are significantly different. I don't think everybody that has a 401k that's tied up into mutual funds or something, which is the stock market. I don't think they're aggressively trying to scam people, though I do think there are a lot of hedge fund people that are optioning things and hedging things in ways that are at the very least problematic. But it's the ratio of the difference, not the speculation.
Yeah,
I want to comment on the whole scamming people part of it, but
yeah, I'd like to hear Scott's take on it. I mean, I do want to also just say, because I don't want to rehash too much, but for me, my sticking point is that like a lot of the criticism tries to avoid the value conversation, because value and Gary's probably familiar with this. Frank's, I think we're all pretty familiar with like the value conversation gets really hard when you talk about art, like in general. And I don't think that's like a wild jump to say. There's like I had to take a bunch, and you've had to too, Corey, for like your graduate degree. It's like there's a lot, like you have to read like art criticism and art theory, and if you read like 2 art theorists, there's entire like libraries full of questions of like how do you ascertain the value of beauty? Is beauty what makes art valuable? What about ugly art? Like, so it gets into like the value conversation is really slippery and hard. But to make a claim of fraud that somehow separates itself from like Bitcoin or stocks or speculation would have to you have to make some kind of case for the unique difference. And the difference can't be that a lot of salespeople hawking the thing are dishonest, because again, I think if we talk about the stock market or the housing market or any market like that, it's going to be a hard-pressed argument to prove that there's somehow more dishonesty within this community than there is with like a market that crashed our entire economy.
Unless your criticism is the lack of regulation. I mean, if that's your objection,
that I understand,
would be a worthy,
But then that would have to apply to crypto.
Right. Well, and that's the thing. I guess it sounds like you're saying like whatever your position is on NFTs has to be consistent with crypto. Is that a fair generalization, or is that?
Well, I think it's just that if you're going to take a value stand against something, and whether it's talking about problematicness of it or morality of it, I think when you make morality claims, like, it is really important to be consistent, and that's
Right.
just my take on it. Like,
Right.
I don't know, and like for me, that's why I can't really stand against it, because like, well, I don't personally feel comfortable buying NFTs. I also don't know if I'd have a problem selling them or maybe buying them at some point. I have no idea.
Right.
But I do know everything that can be levied against it so far sounds like it could very easily be crypto. And the idea of divorcing cryptocurrency from like 4chan or 8chan is to ignore the history of cryptocurrency and the general holders, the whales, which I tried to bring up in our last discussion. But the whales, who everyone involved in crypto or in stocks knows about whales in crypto and stocks. And that's a very questionable thing, where you have like the majority of shareholders of Bitcoin and crypto. Quite a lot of them are on 4chan and 8chan and are like deep dark web hackers. So
Who's
it's
trying
like,
to separate? Who's trying to separate from 4chan and 8chan?
no, I like what I'm getting at is like the reason I was trying to, I think it would be hard to try to separate that.
But who's trying to do that?
If you're not trying to separate it, then you need to be unique in your criticism. My whole point is, what is uniquely against the NFTs that makes them so bad? And again, like you had brought up 4chan and 8chan there, and I was saying it's not unique to NFTs. That's hugely big in crypto.
I didn't bring up 4chan and 8chan to separate them.
When asked for like, this is the tough part about this conversation. I'm trying to find out what it is that's unique to NFTs that make them uniquely problematic. Where one, you don't mind owning $100 of, and the other, you don't want to be near someone talking about. So that's kind of the line I'm trying to find personally, and in all sincerity, like no dark intentions there. That's where I've been confused. That's why we keep kind of cycling around. I'm trying to find what those unique things are. The one thing I will say that you've pointed out that is uniquely different is the fact that it's unupdatable. That's the only thing I've found so far. And if that's the sticking point, I feel like we should focus on that. You know, does that make sense? Or sound too harsh? I don't know. Gary, does it?
No, I mean, I feel like I feel like I'm understanding what you're saying. Yeah.
I'm also not saying what you're saying, Corey, is bad. I just like, I still haven't heard those uniquely NFT things, you know, like other than the updatable part. Is there anything other than that? That's the stuff I want to hear. Not the stuff that could easily be levied at everything, you know, within the crypto market.
I think that's a little unfair, because I have moral issues with almost everything on this planet. You know what I mean? But I can't or don't choose to, I guess. I don't choose to completely not involve myself with the electrical grid because I have moral issues with it being more based on coal than it is on nuclear power.
Right. And you may pay your taxes even if you have moral issues with how the government spends your money. And
I don't want to go to war as much as we do, but it's a huge portion of my taxes pay for the military industrial complex.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
but I guess I was saying I want consistency morally. I'm not saying you have to be a nun who doesn't participate in activities you don't find moral. I'm saying
But I don't feel like I'm being inconsistent. I have said that I have many problems with cryptocurrency as well. I'm not a huge fan of cryptocurrency for a number of reasons.
But like, okay, I guess there's a difference between being not a huge fan and not wanting to at all, like, sort of platform somebody who is like, meaning like, I think that like we've even had discussions on streams about buying crypto. Like obviously not as like financial advice. Yeah. But that's the part that's weird. So there's clearly something about NFTs that's different for you. And that to me is the part that's hard for me. Like, I'm not trying to say that you, Corey, need to do something. It's like I'm trying to figure out what it is you see individually that doesn't apply to crypto, that's unique to NFTs. Because I personally observe like a difference in the way that you are treating them. And so it's like, it's not that I want you to suddenly ditch all crypto and not participate in commerce. And like, if you see someone smoking, like shun them, or, you know what I mean? Like, I don't think that's how we should conduct our lives. It's more just like, I'm trying to pinpoint it to better understand you. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't know. That's my question or idea on it. But if that's terrible, I feel bad.
I don't think I've heard anything from either side that's terrible, or to me, I don't know. And again, like, I'm working while I listen.
Yeah, me too. Most of the time.
But
So
it kind of sounds like it's two different debates to me. Like, which is something like in my first question, like, I feel like it's sort of talking about two different aspects of it.
Yeah.
And that's why I think I would suggest, I feel like a marriage counselor right now. What is being perceived as conflict is actually kind of talking past each other a little bit. But
yeah, I could see that.
So I want to clarify something that Adam is saying. I never said that I was that I don't want to be near somebody talking about NFTs. So I feel like that is inaccurate.
Oh, okay.
My issue was, like, Scott and other people that I am friends with and respect, and I want to be successful. I don't want to get in the way of my kind of random opinion. I don't want to tank their success.
Oh, okay. I see. Now I'm getting it too. I get what you're saying, Corey.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sorry. I don't know why I didn't get that. Honestly,
it all started because that is a possible topic on Artcasters,
and you don't want to derail it. I get it.
Yeah, I would like it to be a successful venture for my friends that I know will do it ethically and morally and with good intention. And I don't want my.
Now I understand. I totally do.
I don't want it to divert into an argument about my main problems are twofold.
Yeah.
One is the community that surrounds it is massively toxic to the point of the vast majority of them. I'm not talking about some people in the housing market are selling adjustable rate mortgages and they're a problem, or some people use cryptocurrency to buy illegal drugs or whatever. I'm talking about NFTs on the whole. These massive NFT projects are almost universally, there's a small percentage of people like Scott in there.
Yeah.
The rest of them are massively toxic.
Yeah.
So for me, it's a ratio of community. And I don't want any of that to get in the way, because I think Scott could do something really cool and I would be happy and might even buy one.
Yeah.
I would suggest,
but I don't
this
want
is someone, I'm not going to claim to be an expert on this, but I would suggest that the biggest risk to this, to NFTs in general, is the community. People participating in it. Like, that is what's going to sink it.
Yeah, and honestly,
from my perspective, because it is a lot of trash.
Yeah, and I was going to say,
and the limitation to it, that it cannot be updated once it's minted, is a driving factor to do one of two things: either have something that is perfect, which I don't think is possible, or to try to circumvent the one thing that it's supposed to do well by having it point to something else.
Okay.
And if it points to something else, then it defeats the purpose of its function. But that's what almost all NFTs are, is it's not media embedded in the NFT that is protected. It is most of the time, and there's a lot of examples where this isn't the case, most of the time pointing somewhere else. And so you get a URL and a receipt that points somewhere else, but that URL goes somewhere else.
Yeah.
So anyway, if I could make this argument, and this is intentionally incendiary, So I'm not trying to
Go incendiary. I don't
Okay.
care.
Go for it. We're all friends.
Not everyone in Gamersgate or Comicsgate have bad intentions or bad people.
Not all men. Hashtag Corey Kerr. Yeah,
So-
got it. Understood.
But I have huge problems with those communities as a whole
Yeah.
because
Yeah,
because
No,
of
I
the-
understand.
I
because of
agree
the
with
actions
you
and the
there.
things.
Kurt.
So
I agree.
I don't think
Yeah.
criticizing Marvel or DC makes you a bad person, right? And I don't think buying cryptocurrency makes you a bad person or minting an NFT makes you a bad person. I do think the communities that are involved in a lot of those things are mostly toxic and problematic.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a
I
shame.
agree with
Well,
that.
I mean, just to draw it to something that like I'm a huge Star Wars fan. It's tough, and I don't have I have criticisms of some of the new movies.
Yeah.
But like it's tough because when you look at who are my allies here in this critique of, for example, Rise of Skywalker, it's a lot of shitty people with shitty positions,
Yeah.
in the fight for bad reasons. So
Yeah.
it's something like that. I think, where the toxicity, maybe it's kind of ruining whatever chance it had to be taken seriously.
Yeah, I can see that. So I appreciate, Corey, that you clarified that. I still personally, just on a logic level, can tell from your descriptions and your passion about NFTs that there is something unique about NFTs for you that's different than crypto. So I still don't think we've avoided that point. However, I think the urgency of finding that out isn't as pressing. But I still would like to hear it. Because again, everything you've said about the community, I cannot help but just as a logical being to not apply that same thing to crypto in general. And I don't think there's anything uniquely different about the crypto market from what I've seen. Now, if we're just blanket stating that that's kind of in all markets and it's mainly just a trying to avoid derailing, I get that too, because I do remember from our discussion initially, that was one of my concerns too, was I don't really know enough about it. I do have some points of confusion about it. I also do want to hear from Scott, who I feel like he'll represent a view on NFTs that hasn't been discussed.
Keep on. Give me 1 minute. I'm going to use the restroom. I'll come back.
Okay.
And then,
yeah. Because I want to hear from Scott, because I do feel like Scott's on a totally different end where he's probably done a lot of research on it, and I'd like to hear his take on it.
Yeah.
Well, if even 20 or 30% of the people were like Scott, I probably would have almost no problems. I'd have warnings, but no problems.
But I'm do you kind of understand, Corey, from my viewpoint too, why I want to know, do you at least understand why I would want to know what makes it unique from those things? That's a unique criticism.
I understand why you have that question. I don't understand why my answer isn't good enough. So that's where I don't understand. I feel like the ratio of toxicity to not toxicity is the answer that I'm trying to give, and I don't know why that isn't.
Huh.
And
I guess I just feel differently.
Less overwhelmed by
two things. I don't want to be backed into a position where I'm defending crypto or the crypto community, because I am not.
Yeah, I'm not asking you to defend that.
Right.
So,
but I feel like I kind of have to if you're looking for differentiation. I think we're talking about a bad, worse, terrible situation. And I do think that NFTs, I don't know of those three options which one is the absolute bottom, but I do think NFTs as a community are going to be worse than cryptocurrency as a community, and it could be a number of things. I think you have. I know emotionally, I have more of a tendency to be defensive emotionally when artists are being taken advantage of, because that's one of my hot buttons.
Well, that's what I was hearing and assuming, Corey, is that one of the significant differences to you is this hits closer to home. It's.
Well, I think I have pointed out on Twitter several times the hypocrisy of everybody going after artists for minting NFTs when nobody goes after people mining cryptocurrency. And
Mining Bitcoin.
They're
Yeah.
both ruining the environment, literally in the same way by using the blockchain.
Right.
Well,
Well,
that's
I think-
because artists, you know, that goes against. It's not. Artists are supposed to be starving artists. That's the way
And
it
that's and so that hypocrisy really bothers me.
yeah. I have a big problem with that too.
Yeah, because I
Yeah.
was again like that's one of the reasons I wanted to point out the differentiation early on was like one of the big commonalities, like because if you back this up and you go to the top, like most of your lists, and I'm not meaning this as a calling you out, Corey, because I think you've clarified, but I'm just explaining like most of your lists. Like your last one on the list was the environmental impact, and I'm okay with that as a position, but I hope you understand like why I would want that to be consistent, just like you defending an artist on Twitter being attacked for that, where it's like, hey, if we're going to make that critique about like NFTs, which are not being mined nearly to the level that you have crypto being mined, where you have like entire regions of like Norway, like and like Switzerland and stuff like filled with just Bitcoin mines.
I threw that out. I threw that as a problem for crypto and NFTs.
Yeah, and I appreciate
that wasn't an argument exclusively for NFTs.
Yeah, and I appreciate that actually being clarified because like that's one of the reasons I was like I've been harping on like what's the difference, and if it's not a difference, it's just an overall statement, and that I can kind of get on board with.
Well, and that's why I didn't use that as an argument against NFTs, because it isn't an argument against NFTs. It's an argument against proof of work blockchain mining.
Yeah. It's just you brought that up as one of the arguments against NFTs at the beginning of this conversation. But I get what you're saying. Scott, what's your take on NFTs?
Yeah. So, well,
He
first,
disagrees.
you know, first of all, yeah. I mean, you can't skirt around the fact that there are a lot of problems with NFTs. There are a lot of like Corey said, there's a lot of problems with that. You could look at any single thing and you can find a plus and a minus side to it. I mean, I'm not a big fan of Amazon, but I collect checks from Amazon through affiliates and through, you know, the stuff I publish through KDP, and, you know, so I mean, it's kind of like the world we live in. So yeah. I could look at any single, I mean, you guys were talking about electric cars. I mean, you think electric cars, great, but what happens to that battery once? Yeah. I mean, so no matter you could look at anything like that, and going back to, you know, I really do think for some reason once artists get into it, once there becomes an opportunity for artists to make a profit for something, that's when people as a whole tend to start to have a problem with it. Yeah. If it was sports figures, you know, you're allowed to make as much money as you want if you're a sports figure, if you're a sports fan, because it's accepted. As far as art, no, that we can't have that. So if it was just, you know, sports figures doing like video footage of NFTs, doing their plays or whatever, it seems like no one would have a problem with that. But once artists get into it, they do. But the main thing I wanted to just talk about was the idea of swindling people or tricking people into thinking they're going to make a ton of money. And I'm sure, you know, I know there are people out there that are like that in the NFT space. I've never, ever once looked at it like that. I look at these NFTs as collectibles. You know, I wouldn't say, get my NFTs because you're going to become a millionaire. You're going to be able to trade them. I wouldn't go with that. It is in the same way that you would collect a Pokemon card or something like that.
Perfect example.
There's this built-in scarcity to certain cards, or like a blind box toys, the little packages you get. Mm-hmm. It's not the value, and it's not. I am not the market for NFTs. I don't have any interest in buying NFTs. Yep. But I don't have any interest in buying little chase toys either. Yep. But you can't, as an artist, if you tend to look at yourself as your own target market, I mean, you're going to be in trouble, because sometimes when you price something or you think, yeah, I don't know if people will pay it. That's too much. People won't pay for that. Yep. I went to this mall in Scottsdale, upper crust. I mean, just like the stuff, the things people were paying. I mean, I couldn't afford that, but there are people out there that can. and that will, and they'll, I mean, so you can't look at what you would purchase or what makes sense, that things that you would like as your only opportunity.
Yeah. And
So
Scott, like I always do this. I apologize. You guys are used to it though. And it is my live stream, so I guess I'll just hop in. But sorry, Frank. But like, so this actually highlights, I was bringing up foil variants yesterday, and this is the reason I was bringing up like Image and their foil variants, or like any sort of speculation in general. Like, I do think like I get what Scott's saying, because I do think it's just a speculation thing, and like any speculative market, you know, because there are people who've made millions on it. Again, it could be a pump and dump, and that's totally possible. But it also could be a scenario where it's just like crypto in its early phases, you know? So
just as a quick aside, Jim Lujan told me his favorite porn is pump and dump.
I love it.
Just so you know.
But yeah, I want you to continue on it. But I wanted to reiterate, like, I agree with you on that. So, I can see it as like a Pokemon card.
So yeah, and you know, what is this thing worth? Pokemon? It's a piece of paper. Maybe it's a little thicker. Maybe the dimensions are a little off. But a piece of cardboard that a Pokemon card is. I mean, is that really any different than something digital?
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, I'm not a collector of digital things.
Yep.
You know, I like physical goods. That's my thing. And so I don't have any plans to go out and buy an NFT. I don't want to say I never would, because, you know, if I have somebody who purchases one of my NFTs who's an artist who just wants to support me, I may want to go back and support them. But I mean, I don't see the value in that, but a lot of people do. The same way that I don't care about, like, I go to these comic store appearances, and there's people that, you know, they want to buy a sketch cover that I do, and they'll want to have it slabbed, or whatever. For me, comics are meant to be read like that. I mean, I guess there's a difference. Like, if you've got Superman Action Comics #1, maybe that you can slab or whatever. But once you get into like modern stuff, I mean, really, but I'm not gonna vilify anyone for wanting to do that. And there's a risk. I mean, if you're buying things hoping that they're going to turn around and sell them, I would probably, if you asked me, I would argue against probably not doing that.
Yeah.
I don't think that's probably a wise investment, but it's not my job to make decisions for other people. And there's more than just, my thing is, there's more than just the what you think you can flip it for, or whatever, as far as the value. The value is the collecting. The value is the chase. Like when people buy an NFT, like the project I'm working on, it's one where, you know, you've got all these different variables and some more rare. And it's like, oh, what did I get? Oh, that's cool. And then, you know, whatever you want to do that for, whether you want to take that into a game or something. Like, I'm not into, like, I don't play video games, but some people like, you know, whether, they'll pay X amount of money for this special armor.
Mm-hmm.
That has value to them. Again, it doesn't have value to me, but I'm not selling to myself.
Yeah.
You know?
And dude, like the other thing is, like, and this is the nice thing is, like, by the way, I also want to say, like, this has been interesting, but like Adam, who's in the chats, he did a restream of our NFT stream, and then like had a guy on who actually, I think, was like a kind of deep web hacker type. I don't know. He seemed like it, like a crypto guy. And like that guy was actually, like, I thought it was cool hearing his take on it, because it was very
like a reaction
different.
Video?
It was like he was working on art, listening to our stream, which
cool.
I fully encourage people to do anyway. And also, I really want to clarify, I respect Corey, and I don't think Corey is wrong for having a moral stance on something. So
there's
I want to be really clear about
there's
that.
a lot of problems I have.
That's not what you told me on Messenger, Josh.
Yeah, that's true. Other than what I told Frank privately about wanting to see the destruction of Corey. No.
Right.
But so I don't want anybody like thinking Corey is bad for like expressing a moral stand. Like, in fact, that's admirable and kind of a difficult thing to do. So like, let's not, you know, pile on him or anything. It's just more of like, for me thinking, my thinking on it is like kind of influenced by that guy. Oh, see, you can't, you guys cannot dislike Corey. He's a good dude. But yeah, like, so this guy actually, I think, is delving into like even the coding of it. And his argument was that early adoption on the internet of everything is kind of weird and it's a Wild West situation. And it was that with Bitcoin. And he was bringing up the idea of like, it's actually a good way to learn a new system that might be adopted. And so one of the arguments for early adoption of a thing like this, he had brought up like a Commodore situation where it's like, if you give a kid like a Commodore, which I guess is equivalent to like an NFT, it's brand new. They could learn how to code. They could figure it out. They could figure out how the system works. And if you're an early adopter who learns that, you grow up to be the person who knows how to code an iPad, which if you handed a kid, they wouldn't be able to touch or understand or even know how to like begin. So one of the arguments for like early adoption of something like this is like, it is kind of there is a playing and a game element to it. So Scott, what you were bringing up about like buying like a costume for like a skin for Minecraft, which we bought Ben a few because he loves Minecraft. Does that have value? I don't know. It does for Ben because he likes playing the game. And that was the guy's main argument was like, it's a game. It's Pokemon. It's a game. And it's a game that could have money involved, and some people might play really stupidly, but it is a game, and like I thought that was a really good argument. So
yeah, and I mean, there's definitely.
Oh, and then Adam was saying Alan Marcus isn't a deep web crypto guy. Sorry, he just seemed really plugged into the community. Sorry, it was interesting. Go ahead.
Yeah, and again, I just want to reiterate, I would never tell somebody to invest in NFTs because you're going to be able to flip them and make a lot of money.
Yeah,
it's kind of. It really is up to you, whatever kind of value you see in that. And if you think you can, maybe it is possible to flip it, but that's not why I'm doing it. And that's not why I think people that would want to invest in any NFTs that I put out would do so. I just think it's more, it's like the thrill of the hunt. It's like, it's a lot of that kind of stuff. I had another point I was going to make, and I'm trying to think what it was.
You got Josh derailed. I apologize.
But what was I going to say? Yeah, I mean, but it's if you're there's risk involved, but also there's risk involved for me. I mean, I could spend all this time creating this NFT project and we could drop it and nothing could happen. And that's a risk I have to take. If you're doing something like there's risk involved. And if you aren't in a position to take that risk, don't take that risk. I'm not advocating the same way I wouldn't advocate if you are having trouble paying groceries, don't go spend $150 a week on lottery tickets.
Yeah.
I think that's a stupid thing to do.
Yeah.
Yep.
If you don't have the money to invest or to do whatever, in an NFT, don't do that. But
yeah.
I can't. It's not my job to decide for you what's a good decision for you or not. And I would never. Like I said, I would never go into an NFT project saying, oh yeah, do this. You're gonna be able to become a millionaire. You're gonna be able to flip these things or whatever.
Yeah, and like my take on it was like my thought on it, just knowing you, Scott, was like you'll probably be honest about it in the sense of like, hey, like how I mentioned super chats at the beginning of this thing. Nobody sent a super chat, but if they do, that's a cool way to support what we're doing. It doesn't add any value to the person doing it. Like they're literally throwing me a couple bucks in a hat. Like I'm playing a gig and I've got a hat out, and if you want to put change there, you can, right? Like this is all over the internet, like the idea of like just kind of supporting an artist to support an artist. And there is a part of NFTs that can be like, hey, I just want to like publicly have my name on this record having supported this artist for this piece, right? So there is a part of it that is totally just like, I mean, some people want a hexagon on Twitter, and like if they want to spend money to have a hexagon on Twitter, and if they're going to be doing it, and the guy who was on Adam's thing mentioned this too. A lot of the guys who are coining these things or whatever are just like making really bad auto-generated images. So the point being, like, why not at least make it look pretty? I mean, like, if Scott's going to do an NFT, it's going to look good. The art's going to be good. He's going to have spent time on it. It's just like the KDP stuff where like Scott is in a market in KDP where people are making these really terrible looking, low content books. And then Scott is offering what Frank's showing, which is like these beautiful high content books.
Well, as far as the art, the other thing I wanted to mention, and kind of going back to, I think I'm behind on your stream, so I don't know what you mentioned on the last couple of them.
Yeah.
But I think it was the one I was watching, you talked a lot about NFTs. I don't know if you talked more about that since then, but I know a lot of the points that Corey made, and I agree with there's a lot of problems and stuff. A lot of the I think points Corey made came from one specific video. And I would encourage anyone to watch that video. There's a lot of good information in it, but it is very, very biased. And it's not, it doesn't look at it really objectively. The person doing that video definitely had an agenda. And not to say that information is inaccurate or whatever, but like anything, you can look at something. If you want to look at and find all the bad things about it, you can. And the minute that I kind of took pause with that, and understanding this person has a definite objective, is when he got to the artwork, because that is an objective thing, the artwork. And he slammed the artwork. He said it's all garbage. He said there's nothing innovative about it. He said, and some of it is, the artwork on NFTs is garbage, but some of the pictures he showed or whatever, even like Bored Apes. Okay. I mean, it's an art style. It's not, the person doing that isn't a bad designer or whatever. It may not be the style that I particularly like, but that's subjective. Yeah. But he pretty much attacked even the artwork, saying it was all garbage. So that way, that's when I knew, well, this is definitely, he's got an agenda. He's not looking at this objectively. So you can take that with a grain of salt or for what it's worth. I mean, yeah. But you have to. I mean, so I don't know. I mean, and again, I watched the video, and there's a lot of things, and a lot of things made me take pause. But yeah, if you go, like you said, if you go into Amazon, you talk about Amazon, you could say a bunch of stuff that's going to make me feel bad for myself for wanting to use Amazon to make money. Or
telling people to buy 2 stories on discount at Amazon, which you guys should all do right now. Okay.
I mean, you can talk about solar energy, and you can find a lot of bad stuff to say about it. You can talk about anything that there's a positive to, there's going to be a negative side to. So if you want to focus, if you only want to focus on that, then you're going to find all the problems with it.
Yeah. But I do I do actually think it's been valuable, because it's like, I didn't get, after this conversation, I kind of get a better sense of like what Corey was talking about. So I think Corey was just saying he doesn't want to derail your selling of those products because he has like issues.
And I want to reiterate,
admirable. Yeah,
I want to reiterate that I didn't even think of, if I was going to promote an NFT, saying going the angle that, oh, you're gonna, and I'm sure there's a lot of crypto bros or whatever that do that kind of thing. Yeah, but that's not me. I mean, I can't.
I don't see.
And then again, in any marketing, I mean, if I go out and say, oh, this is the world's best cup of coffee, I mean, that's BS. I mean, how do you prove that? But you could still say it in traditional marketing.
Thanks for pointing that out, Scott, because I did at the beginning of this say this is the world's best cup of coffee because it's being drank from a Jimmy Hahn mug. But anyhow.
Right. But I mean, there's a lot of non-truth in advertising. There's a lot of things people say in advertising in general that just isn't true or is meant to manipulate people. And, I mean, you have to be a smart consumer. When people say this is the world's best of coffee, my radar comes up and says, really? Is it? Yeah. Maybe some people don't have that radar and some people fall for that stuff, but you have to at least give the consumer some credit and hope that that they're smart enough to, if somebody is trying to sell them on the fact that they're going to turn around and make all these, I mean, you got to have a little bit of market intelligence.
Yeah. And like for instance, like paper, is technically not great for the environment a lot of the time. So if I order a print that I'm signing and numbering, so I'm creating like a speculative limited amount, right? Like I'm selling a print that's like 1 out of 20 at a convention. And I know that why I only ordered 20 is because like there's going to be a perceived value of limited quantity when in reality I could order 5,000, but I decided 20 right? Because it'll have a better, people will have a higher perceived value of it. I mark it up to like $20. I sell it at a convention. Am I now liable to like, I'm liable to like the paper mill, like the paper mill, were they like responsible and sustainable? Am I liable to like be honest to the person when I sell it, even though it's a limited edition? Hey, this is 1 out of 20, but also I just want to mention that I only paid this much for it and I've marked it up this much, and that this is actually a perceived value so that I can get people to pay $20 as opposed to 15. No, like you're not liable to do that. You just sell the product at like that and say, hey, this is limited edition. None of that's untrue. Like you made it limited edition, but it's still like the perceived value is still like so yeah. Like I don't really think there's an issue. There would be an issue if somebody bought it and I was like, I'm going to be a famous artist, and this $20 thing is going to be worth like $1 million in a year. Then I'd be liable. But there's laws for that too. Like that would actually be fraud, right? So it's like, I don't know. Anyhow, just throwing that out there.
Well, and then what Corey brought up is that it is kind of the Wild West with NFTs. There's not
100%.
anything really regulating that, but it's early. Eventually, maybe that'll be the case. I mean, I don't know I have no predictions of what's going to happen with NFTs. And do I think that it's speculative? Yeah. To be honest, yeah, I think I think a lot of things are speculative. I think collecting comics, but I'm not going to tell people, oh, don't buy this comic or whatever.
And it's not unethical for you to take advantage of that market and be like, hey, I'm going to offer a foil variant. It's just not. I don't think.
So I don't know. I mean, that's kind of the way I look at it. So.
All right, Gary, do you regret asking us to run over NFTs?
No, this has been very actually interesting to listen to.
Okay. So what's your take, Gary?
Yeah.
What's your gut feeling?
Real
You
quick,
cleared up a lot.
I do want to.
I hate them all.
Yeah, let Corey. Oh,
What, Corey?
So one thing is, I did get a lot of information from one video, but I didn't just watch.
right. Well, I know you've been, because I don't know how long that video's been out, but I know you've been talking about this before. But I noticed a lot of the points that you were making were echoed in that same video. So
Right. Yeah, because they're saying it twice. But yeah, I disagreed with his take on a number of things, and a lot of the stuff, like his judgment of the community, where he said they all seem to be this. I don't know if he's using, and I doubt he's using, like critical research methods to be able to quantify his statement there.
right.
And then his stuff in the art, that's super subjective. So stuff like that. But I've been looking into this for a long time in a number of things. So I just wanted to point that out. That guy definitely had an agenda, no doubt. But it was well researched.
Oh yeah. There was a lot of good points, and like a lot of it made me pause. Like, am I doing the right thing? Am I going to destroy the environment, or am I going to, And I worry about that stuff. But it's like no matter what I do,
Yeah.
If I recycle, how much energy, how much water does it take to recycle your plastics or whatever? I mean, it's like it's never ending.
Yeah,
I mean,
no, there's problems with everything.
Yeah,
dude. Recycling is a really good example too, because there is a lot of research on that where it's like a lot of our recycling goes to landfills in like third world countries that'll take our recycling, and then they have so many recycled products that it actually ends up just becoming environmental waste. And so it's like that. So like a lot of the times in life, even when you're trying to do something good, there's always a downside. A lot of our solutions end up being more problematic than the problem in the first place.
Yeah.
I don't think we can be liable for those things.
Yeah, and then over time they, kind of get better. A lot of them, but like Dee Dee's pointing out, wait till the electric car batteries and solar panels are made in China and all that type of thing. I mean, just the batteries themselves become problematic in a number of different ways, right?
Yeah.
But I don't think we should not try to make things better.
Yeah, I'm still a fan of Tesla, even though there's like a giant chip shortage and there's an increase in metal mines for Teslas to be made. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and I who knows? In the event that I get big into NFTs and become super successful, then you're like, well, what do I do to
Oh, don't miss those.
to make myself feel better about if all the, you know, all the stuff with the blockchain with the energy issues. And well, maybe I can invest in an electric car, but then there's problems with that. So it's like, it's never ending. There's
I
like,
have a solution for you, Scott. If you make millions on it, what you can do to feel better is just share the wealth and make us all millionaires.
I was going to say, pandering from atop your giant mountain of money. Like that would be.
That's a good thing too. Yeah. Actually, that would be good. You could do it. When the NFTs take off, you could just start doing your videos on a pile of money. I think that would be good. All of them. Yeah.
It'll also keep you relatable.
The thing,
just be like, man, have you guys ever been this hot? And it's just like a big wad of bills.
Yeah.
It's just I need to.
But I'll say this again and again and again. If there are more and more people like Scott Circlin getting involved, every person like you that gets involved lessens my concerns about NFTs.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess maybe just because I'm communicating mostly with artists, I just haven't seen any the artists that the way they're marketing their NFTs as far as, this is a great investment. You're gonna, for any other reason that you're a collector, it's fun or whatever. But you know,
it's often not the first generation of people that buy the NFTs that are really that problematic. It's after that, once it starts to inflate. But the other thing, and I don't know that I've articulated this well, but I brought up decentralized Web3 being based on blockchain, and everybody talking this taps into something that you guys know I've been concerned about for a long time. I have the same concerns about blockchain technology being the foundation of what we're supposed to have as some sort of new internet revolution as I do with Apple Watches. I mean, wearable tech and people going around wearing glasses, that film everything, the Facebook Ray-Ban glasses and all that stuff. This is another piece of the puzzle into my concerns about the future being something that continue to go to an inhuman state where we're kind of and so I have a personal stake in any issue that kind of goes along those lines.
Yeah, understandable.
Well, and I have, just to hop from that, I do have a concern about the future, most of our lives being regulated not by governments, but private companies with shareholders. Like that doesn't make me, I don't see that as an improvement. I know some people do. I know some people see government as, the root of all evil, but I'm not one of those people. And I feel like between the two, talk about awful and less awful options. Like, I don't know. I'm reluctant to see any kind of a privately manipulable system as our savior. Like that just doesn't seem. But I want to just clarify. This is something I have not done my due diligence on, and I'm still sort of deliberating. I don't know about crypto and NFTs. And to be honest, I think where like my gut response is usually a little bit of revulsion. I think it's just because I feel like it's not for me. I think it's that very kind of reaction of like, I'm not interested in this, so it's dumb.
Right. But that's kind of what I'm saying, Gary, is that it's not, honestly, it's not for me either. I'm not, I prefer physical goods.
Yeah. I don't even
not
buy
big on
digital
digital,
books,
but
right?
I'm not, I can't look at myself as every consumer.
Right.
I mean, there are people out there that honestly, and I'm old. So, I mean, the younger generation, I mean, if I keep trying to, if I'm like Fox News and I keep marketing to people in their 80s, eventually those people are going to die off. I don't know. I mean, it's like, so, I mean, you kind of have to look at what's coming up, and maybe I don't totally understand it, but you look at like if the world, and this isn't a world I'd necessarily want to live in, or I'm sure in Corey's talking about it, but if we were in Ready Player One where people live in this digital world, then then the digital goods are just the same as physical to a lot of people,
Right.
So I don't know.
Right. And that's where I think I'm still sorting through that. Like, while my is my, while I may have a personal disinterest, like professionally or intellectually or philosophically, like, what, what is that? And I haven't really settled in that area. Like, I just know, like, yes, like your initial thought, like, I can tell this isn't something that's made for me or interesting to me.
Right.
Mhm.
And I can admit that without taking a position, like, that has kept me from being very interested in going down the rabbit hole with that. So
Yeah.
it's kind of helpful and interesting to listen to Corey and Josh, kind of go round on it, where it's like it's giving me kind of, I think, more of a sense of like, all right, so what is this? What do I care about this? Should I care about this?
Yeah.
Matter?
Yeah, I relate to that a lot, because I feel like regardless of my stance on it, I am a guy who, like, I adopt super late on everything. So I will probably adopt really late on this if this is the thing, But at the same time, it's like I'm not particularly like the market for it.
Right.
But I'm not this is where I totally get what Scott is saying, because I'm not a guy who's going to like drive to a toy store, wait there for 3 hours to buy a Beanie Baby that I know is not going to be worth something.
Right.
However, I'm not going to fault an artist who's like, hey, there's a Beanie Baby craze. I'm going to make some Beanie Babies.
Sure.
Like, I actually think that's pretty much like capitalism 101. And I have no issue with like artists being capitalists. Like, I have some issues with unregulated capitalism for sure.
Right.
But I mean, like, to me, it's like, it's kind of good. Like, I really, I kind of hope, like, I hope artists make a crap load of money at this, while it's a hot thing.
Yeah,
and if it ends up being like a crypto that's
a weird
around,
fad,
cool,
like, and it becomes like it's Pogs but with gambling.
Yeah, or
the other thing is eventually,
whatever,
and this is already starting to happen, but right now, as an early adopter, I as somebody who doesn't have a big name in the art world, there's still a possibility. Like I said, I mean, we could drop this thing, it could fail miserably. I don't know, but there's an opportunity that I may be able to do something with this. Whereas as time goes on, I think smaller independent artists are going to be pushed out because big companies like Marvel or whoever, they're getting the NFTs, and then if you're a consumer, it's like, oh, am I going to take, if it is an investment or whatever, am I going to take a risk on this independent guy, or am I just going to invest in whatever Marvel's putting out? And then I don't know that opportunity will be around at least in the same way for smaller artists.
I have to wonder though, these big companies getting into like kind of toying with the idea, is that from a real reasoned business position, or is that, this is, I'm going to throw some technical terms at you, dipshit shareholders on earnings calls saying like they've read about this in the paper and they're like, what are we doing about NFTs? And so like, Marvel's like, we need to come up with some kind of an NFT answer.
Yeah, and it might be like the out of touch execs that are like, we've got the NFTs. Yeah.
Well, and even more out of touch shareholders.
Oh, exactly. What's the latest trend?
We need to come up with our NFT plan because the shareholders are badgering us because they read about it or heard about it on the news.
I think they've got popular visual assets that can easily be minted into an NFT, and there's an opportunity to make money.
Yeah.
And I don't fault the businesses or the individual artists for doing that. Just as much as I don't, walk around and rip Apple Watches off of people's wrists and throw them on the ground,
Right.
It's fine. And I mean, I like people do stuff all the time that I think is fine on the micro sense, but on the macro sense is going to be a huge problem.
Yeah.
And so I don't have an issue with any of that. And I think that there's definitely a way that any of these could go in a different direction than I expect it to go, and it could actually work out really well, which is why I think more independent artists getting involved is fine, is great. Because I think artists tend to be the ones that turn a society for the better or for the worst. I mean, we're the ones that are making things that make people think about stuff.
Mhm.
Right.
So, I mean, if that's something something that can help, sure, do it. But a lot of NFTs are machine-based art. It's stuff
Yeah.
that's being created with, they're making 10,000, 10,000 of something. It's not like,
Well, yeah. I mean, that's the kind of thing I'm doing too. But you have to.
But
But an
you
artist has
spent-
to design all of those.
right. But you
different
spent
things to-
months. I mean, you spent months to create all of those things by hand.
Right.
He's talking about like the automated NFTs where the art itself, like there's guys that are like literally just automating,
Yeah.
artwork for
It's
NFTs.
just nonsense. It's just a kind of a digital abstract rarity.
Yeah.
So
Even that, if somebody finds value in that, fine, whatever, I don't care. But I mean, it's just like I think the Amazon marketplace, that could be really cool, and then it's overrun with all of these people that aren't artists.
Well, yeah,
and
I
it
see
should
that
be
all
a
the time
space
in
for
KDP.
artists, and they're just grabbing whatever they can and slapping it onto whatever they
And
can.
the thing, it's funny because like, even like, say what you want about Walmart. I mean, you go into the book section of Walmart and they're going to be nicely designed books. You go on Amazon. I mean, there's just garbage. And then some people, they just don't care or don't know any better. And it's like some of these books, I mean, I look at them like, why? Oh my God, this is so hideous looking. Why are people buying this?
Right.
I could design so much better book. I put it out there, but the problem is I don't have the sales, and the more sales you get on Amazon, the higher it ranks,
Yep.
and the more reviews you get. So if you're the first to market with a garbage looking book, and
Yep.
but for whatever reason people are buying it, it's really hard to, even as good a book you put next to that, where it wouldn't be the same if it was on a store shelf. If you could put two books next to each other,
Yeah.
they're going to pick the better looking book.
I,
But if
a
they don't-
really
I'll be right back.
Yeah, a really good example of that is like, dude, like Scott, like your comic series is incredible on YouTube.
Oh yeah,
And it's gaining traction.
Yeah.
It's a slow build. But imagine that had been YouTube year 2. You
Oh,
would
yeah,
be the wealthiest artist on the planet. So there is a huge argument for early adoption for
Yeah.
artists.
and
I will
those-
say my skepticism for myself has been like, and I said this at the beginning yesterday, was like, I would do this with an investor, with somebody who is willing to pay the gas fees and all of that stuff and take that risk. And then I'd take the time risk with some art, like very similar to what you're doing, Corey, like Scott, because I think that's the way to go. I would really personally hesitate dropping a bunch of gas fees.
Wow, Frank,
I
on
buy
my
your
own
stuff,
for it.
Scott.
thanks.
You
Well,
know?
and talk about that, Frank. I'm sure if you've been on Amazon, you see that there's some other. I mean, I've got a bigger variety of different types of books like that. But as far as just the blank comic book panels,
Yeah.
there's books on there that
Yeah.
have thousands of reviews.
Yeah.
And as a comic book artist, I look at those and I look inside. I'm like, this looks like somebody who's never read a comic book might think panels look like, or like word
Yeah.
names look like.
Yeah.
But they got way more sales, and there's people that are making thousands of dollars a month on one book because it's just got so many reviews.
Yeah.
So, like you said, that one book that I have is starting to get more and more sales, and the more sales it sells, but it's still nothing compared to some of these other books that really, honestly, aren't as good. And there's tons of those books because they're easy to make if you don't know what you're doing. I mean, panels are easy to make.
Yeah.
So there's tons of those books out there.
By the way, Jake properly corrected me. He said year 2, no, year 4 or 5, maybe. You're right. Year 2, you just need cute cat videos. That's about it. Anyhow, dude, I think like it's an interesting territory, and I'm going to be like, to me, Scott, the way I'm viewing it is like you're almost a guinea pig in my mind as to whether I want to try it or not. I'm kind of excited to see you try something new.
Results may vary. I mean, it doesn't, and it doesn't always have anything to do with the quality of the art or anything like that. And like any other thing, like I know, like, so we had 2 artists on the Artcasters. Brian Allen, who's from Flyland Designs. He's launched 2 successful NFT projects. We had BJ Dell on an episode from I think it's just Drawing with BJ Dell or something like, I forgot what his YouTube channel is. He was gonna, I don't know what happened with his. He was gonna launch it and then he took his video off, and I don't think it's happened. But there's tons of people that'll launch projects that haven't gone anywhere, and it's not always because of the artwork. So, you know, and I don't know. Who knows? You know, who knows what happens with when I do mine? Because I mean, I'm not a big name. I'm just kind of, I'm putting faith in my partners that they can advertise it and do what they need to do. And I don't know, we'll see what happens.
Well, I think even Corey, like, I think all of us are like definitely wishing you the best on it and like really wanting to see it succeed because which actually is really kind of neat that we clarified that, you know, which I think I somehow lost touch of, but I think like the main thing Corey was wanting to do was not derail it. Like he wants you to succeed too. Yeah. So that's half of the thing. I don't know. Like, so like the metaverse kind of thing. I'm just kind of curious to just take this like on a bigger perspective. Cause I think that was one of Corey's big concerns is like this metaverse kind of being a problem. What do you guys think about that? What are your thoughts on the metaverse and like VR and stuff? Like I'm personally like, I feel like about it kind of like NFTs where I have no idea.
Yeah, I'm pretty ignorant as far as that. And I don't really have any predictions on where that's going to go.
I have a team member where I work who's like a junior designer. So of course he's like not ancient like I am, but it's like, he does a lot of stuff. He's been doing stuff in the metaverse for art. He built a virtual art gallery and stuff. And it was like this really interesting thing where he's like, got this project where he's building his own little art gallery that people can visit in 3D. And I'm like, that's kind of amazing and cool. And it blows my mind. I don't really understand it, you know? But I just was curious, like, have you guys have thoughts on that? Like Corey, I want to hear your skepticism on that in general. Take us off of NFTs. Let's talk about like the digital apocalypse.
I have a feeling I'll probably have an opinion similar to Corey's, but I'd like to hear Corey's thoughts.
I think there are forces that are pushing us towards anything that'll dehumanize us. And so anything that can separate us from our physical senses is something that I think there's a lot of money in and a lot of incentive to go towards. We're more easily controlled and manipulated when we don't have our bodies involved. And so I think everything that is pushing in that direction should at least be viewed through some scrutiny. But yeah, that's kind of I mean, I would love to have a smartwatch. I think there is some utility to them. You know, I'd love to be wearing glasses and I just say a word and it starts filming my kids doing something cute. My concern with wearable tech is my same concern with augmented reality and virtual reality. I think what it mutates humanity into and what it mutates our society into is something unrecognizable to empathy and kindness and love and human connection and physicality of living in a reality that has like physical existence and sensation.
Yeah.
And so anything that's going to try to automate us or manipulate us, I find very concerning. So if you give somebody the ability to control everything that you see and hear and taste and smell and feel, I'm not sure what is left for you to perceive as an individual. And so, you know, I mean, why do we have bodies? You know, why aren't we just disembodied floating minds? Which I know sounds drastic and really sci-fi, but I mean, what is the logical extreme of all of this? Is it some kind of transhumanism? It's turning us all into some form of cyborg, you know, that is basically bought and sold by huge tech companies and government. And so I mean, if a senator came to, and I know everybody would say that this would never happen, but I mean, if a senator came to whoever owns whatever, you know, augmented reality situation that has the most people in it, it could be metaverse, it could be somebody else, Amazon and Google, I'm sure, are gonna get in the game at some point as well. But if somebody came to them and said, "Hey, if I gave you $500 million, could you move the needle on people's perception on this issue? 2 or 3 points to the right, or 2 or 3 points to the left." That is a very real situation that is currently happening, but just not effective. And so if you look at Cambridge Analytica, imagine what would happen with Cambridge Analytica, but where everybody is tapped into a virtual environment and everything that they have on all of their senses is filtered through a company that owns those pixels and sounds. I don't know what happens to individual liberty or freedom of choice, or even the idea of an individual at that point. I think we become drops in the ocean, and the ocean moves, rises and falls based on giant corporations and governments paying money to each other.
Dude,
individuals become little bits of fuel that are burnt through. I don't see people caring at that point in time if people live or die, or if they live well or poorly, because
dude,
it's no longer about people.
To also just to reiterate what Corey was saying, he's saying, I know this sounds like far-fetched and stuff like that, and it's like, just to back him up a little bit, it's like there's a lot of singularity theories that have been going around in the tech world where there's a whole group of people where that's actually an objective. Right. And not like in some dark, like underground, like political area or anything like that. Like this is actually stuff that a lot of modern ethicists are kind of like struggling with, right? Because it is a territory people are interested in going. Some for like the best of reasons, like, they think that like, I mean, and some of it is very utilitarian, where it's like, dude, like if I don't have an arm, it's pretty awesome if I can somehow get a robot arm. Like that's pretty amazing. Or if like I'm old and like there's some sort of way that we can expand human life and minimize suffering. In theory, a lot of that sounds really nice, but it does have this darker side to it that Corey's alluding to. So like what Corey's talking about is not really far-fetched, especially in ethical worlds and the philosophical world. Like this is like actually a very current concern of a lot of people. Also, I wanted to say, Adam in the chat said, mad respect 100% for Corey in this conversation. I agree, man. I value all of us in this community. Like I like the fact that like we can all kind of butt heads, and like the thing I like about you guys is I trust you to butt heads with. Like I don't trust most people for that. If I didn't trust you, I wouldn't bring it up. I'd just be like, well, that's your opinion. We all have our opinions. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Hey guys, I'd like to keep butting heads with you, but I'm going to have to, I got to help my dad out and everything. So I'm going to log off, and then I'll keep watching either now or later. But
well, Scott, thank you so much for joining, and it's been fun hanging out. Why don't you let everybody know where to find you real quick?
Oh yeah. Well, you can find, no news on when I'll do any kind of NFT drop, but you can find my work at circworks.com. If you want to get into my comics or digital products, you can find them there. So I
love it. Awesome. Thanks, Scott. Thanks for coming on. It's been fun, man, and we'll see you on Artcasters next week. All right.
Later. Bye everyone.
Bye, Scott.
All right. So Frank, what do you think about Metaverse?
Oh, like you guys were saying, I don't know that much, but
what's up?
Sorry, real quick. I'm going to keep listening, but I've also got to bow out. My kids are awake from their naps. So.
Hey, it's perfect. It's perfect timing. I'm almost done with my panel. Corey, let everybody know where to find your stuff before you bow
out. Just CoreyKerr.com.
Awesome.
Lots of digital things you can find there.
Awesome. Corey's got deep, awesome thoughts and strong convictions, and I admire the hell out of the guy.
Yes.
Yeah, like with the metaverse, I don't know that much. Something I'm looking into, like when VR starting getting more and more popular again, because VR isn't new. Like people are like, oh my goodness, VR. That was a thing when I was a kid, and it was more of a I guess a gimmick, or it was thought of as a gimmick, but there were major discussions that, man, like, if I invest in VR and we get more VR, we're gonna be able to do these great things and fantastic things, and then it kind of died out, became a gimmick, and then it came back again, and I was like, now it's more how people envisioned it back then. So now more people are getting into it. So that is something interesting. I kind of wanted to either get into it or look more into it and find out more about it. But now you have a big company trying to make a whole VR universe, and like, well, who else is doing that? Because if it's just one company,
Yeah.
controlling it, that's where I have issues with, especially if it's a company that they're not always doing the most ethical things, or so.
Yeah. I get that. It's
But
funny.
I don't blame people for getting into it or trying it. Like,
yeah, I have friends who like are fairly high up. Like, I'm not trying to do like the I have friends, I'm so connected kind of thing, because I'm not. But I do have friends that are pretty high up at said company. And the weird thing is,
Z-Berg.
no, no, but high up, like high positions there.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't name drop them because I don't want to like bring them into my little like Google thing, you know.
Yeah.
But it's like what's been interesting from conversations I've had with them. It's like, it sounds like a lot of the ethical issues. It's not that like they're not aware of it, and I don't know if this applies for like Zuckerberg himself. Like, in fact, I don't discount the fact that maybe the guy is like completely evil. Who knows? But I will say, like, for a lot of people up there, like some of the issues are sort of self-generating. And so it's very much like the problem of like electric car, where I don't think most people who were trying to push to like electric cars were envisioning a future in which they would be like creating more mines for rare metals.
Yeah.
And like they'd have this giant battery shortage and the issue with battery disposal. I think they were driven by something good. And then natural issues came up, and now they're trying to solve it. And it's like this mix of like, there's a lot of net good and a lot of net bad. And like some of it is really hard, especially when you get into AI. That's like self-learning systems where some of the problems are just automated, like, and then they have to kind of go back and try to fix it. And so it's like, I think what's interesting to me about this is like a lot of the darker stuff that Corey is talking about could happen unintentionally. Like, it doesn't require like some weird puppet master like at the top, or like a lot of you know.
Well, it also can be all of the above. I mean, I believe that some of the initial intentions of places like Twitter and Facebook were noble and maybe even, especially in retrospect, naive.
Yeah.
But then you look at, okay, unintended consequences. But then now there's like the third part of that. So you have intentions, unintended consequences, but then you're like, so what is the easier thing to monetize? And I think what we're seeing now with how Facebook plays out is that Zuckerberg, or the company, or however you want to look at it, benefits from a lot of the unintended consequences that are not just even potentially, I don't think there's even any debate anymore, very demonstrably bad for us, you know?
Yeah.
And that's, I think, to me, like, maybe it's comparing apples and oranges, or maybe it's not. Maybe it's a good sneak preview. I think the failings of Facebook and Meta as a company are a good reason to be highly skeptical of them being interested in the metaverse.
Yeah.
You know? If not for them having weird, evil designs, for them not being worthy of holding the responsibility of what they're wanting, what their ambition is to unleash.
Yeah.
I think that is like that in and of itself. It's like, it's kind of like, you know, you gave a kid a bike and he was like trashing it and falling off it. And now he wants a motorcycle.
Yeah.
You know, you haven't. I don't think you can handle this, and I don't think we can handle you handling it.
Yeah. Also, I wanted to call out Jake Twister in the chat said, Josh, you admit you have Fed friends. Not Fed friends, dude. Like, I don't know anybody in the FBI. That'd be pretty cool. No, I have a couple buddies who work at Facebook and have worked there for a long time. But not,
Yeah.
I wish they were like the string pulling buddies, because then my art career would be way huger than it is.
Yeah.
But what I'm getting at, like, I think this is always a surprise because, like, and Gary, you can probably speak to this because you like work, you know, like what you do for a day job. Like, there's people who don't work there that probably think all this weird nefarious stuff happens.
Yeah.
Where it's like a lot of weird stuff happens in government and in businesses, and like people would be very shocked to find out how much of it is just that people are incompetent, as opposed to like some sort of evil thing happened. Like sometimes like a paper goes missing because somebody didn't file it properly, or like, you know, there are things that people chalk up to like these vast conspiracies that really just boil down to like human beings soaring for the sun and being a little Icarus-ish in their attempt, you know? And I totally agree with like what you're saying, Gary, where it's like, it's weird because it's like, on one hand, the part of me that loves progress, I like to see things like Musk sending like rocket ships into space again. It makes me really excited. I'm happy there's a place like SpaceX that exists. But I also am not happy that there's like stray rockets just happening to fly into the moon, and they're like, well, it's not going to create a problem. It's like, I don't know. Or like that the Starlink satellites are now starting to create like major issues with like space travel, with the International Space Stations, with like space debris. Like, what's that going to do? So it's weird because it feels like almost like a cost of progress is always like these weird inherent risks, like you almost can't plan for. And so there's a part of me that's really excited about the metaverse, because I still haven't even had the like, I'm definitely not in a wealth class where like I can just get like VR and like just do it as a hobby kind of thing. Like, and I'm noticing the cost come down. I'm excited about the idea of like exploring the whole VR thing, because from what I've heard, it's like profound. Like it's this really incredible gaming experience and very immersive.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's definitely like some darker costs like the further we go. And I agree with you, Corey. Like who should be the arbiter?
Who watches the
realm?
watchers?
Who's watching? Yeah, and like, well, and what is this? I think because, like you said, you know, there are all sorts of things that can arise, intended and unintended, by letting the genie out of the lamp. So, to me, and this becomes a little bit of a value judgment on my part. Not a little bit; it becomes a value judgment on my part.
Oh, by the way,
it's like, are the potential perks of this worth it? And to me, again, it's almost like the NFT crypto thing. This isn't interesting to me, but furthermore, like I even have like a more, I think, worldviewy or philosophical position. When I look at the world,
before you get into your philosophical position, I'm saying this for myself as well. I have to stop by bookstores today to drop off those advanced copies, and I have finished the panel. So I want you to wrap your thought, but we do need to be wrapping in about 10 minutes or so.
This won't take long. It's just a very, like, I feel
11
like
minutes.
there are a lot of concerns I have about the world today.
Yeah.
One of the biggest, though, is I feel like people are a little disconnected because of social media in a large part. Yeah. But also because of places like 24-hour news stations and things like that. I think we're a little disengaged from reality. And I think social media allowed us to even go farther down that path we live in.
Yeah.
Curated spaces with curated friends, with curated facts and knowledge. Like, I mean, we're allowing ourselves to basically build a pretend world to live in.
Yeah, like our own.
And I hate to be like that on both sides guy, but not just both, on a million different sides. Like
Yeah.
whatever your weird system is, you can surround yourself in that and go all the way in. That's what
Yep.
QAnon was or is.
Mhm.
So I guess I question, like, first of all, I think we need a little more reality in people's lives and a little less escapism, which
Yes.
is weird to say a guy who writes sci-fi comics, but I do really believe that. And second, I have to question, like, what is this aspiration and is it worthy? Like, is the aspiration just like, no, we can live even more pretend lives. We can have idealized lives. Everything in our metaverse can be shiny and sexy and cool and exciting and beautiful, while the whole world around us goes up in flames. While, you know, like, I don't see the value. And now I'm sure Zuck sees the value, because he can stand to be, you know, add even more billions of dollars to his worth. I mean, he must see that value because that's why he wants it.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's a value to the community. And so I just, and if there is, I don't know what it is. It seems very superficial and sugary, you know, it's there's no meat. It's all candy. So I like feel absolutely, I almost feel like religiously opposed to setting up a system. It's like, let's all like adults play pretend more and more often.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. What about Frank? Do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I think I mean I agree with Gary, and also like I'm not opposed to Zuckerberg making money, and you know I think there's benefits, but also like what Gary is saying about everyone into a fantasy world, and what I've been seeing, just like even like in the comic community, like, oh yeah, man, we make comics and everything, and then you know there's oh, I'm gonna do this comic, and there's a hate fueled towards it, and then people attacking, and it's attacking on different sides. So what's to stop that from happening in the metaverse, where someone creates, oh, I'm gonna create my own world, this is my world, and then there's virtual raids, people coming in and adding codes that will tear down like whatever is it that you're building, or raid your art gallery, or people coming in
right,
they're just doing whatever. Like, well, what's to stop that? What regulates that?
Ooh, I like that.
Well,
okay,
and this isn't a capitalist argument. I think a dyed-in-the-wool capitalist would say, like, well, look, if there's a way for people to make money off it, who cares? I have more of a humanist or philosophical argument, which is like, is this more likely to be nourishing to us as humanity, or
for sure,
are we more likely to become better people because of this, or worse? And I think I would love to hear the argument that somehow this is going to make us better as a species. I think that would be a long shot. I think it'd be very easy to argue it'll make us worse. It'll make our public discourse worse. It'll make our engagement in politics worse. It'll make our, you know, like or at best have no effect. And that also to me is like, well, but okay, now it comes down to who's at the reins. And I'm sorry, I feel like the people at the reins aren't worthy of this sort of power. You know?
Yeah, so I agree. And one of the things that I thought was really disconcerting recently was like the congressional hearings, where there's a previous Facebook employee who's like, hey, like, you know, you guys need to actually just step in and regulate. And they'd be like, well, so you're saying that like Mark Zuckerberg has evil designs and he's intentionally doing that. And the person would constantly be like, it was like hours of that where they'd be like, no, I'm trying to just tell you, like, we need government to come in and regulate this industry, because if it keeps seeking profit, even if it's not intending to do harm, it's going to do harm. And then they'd be like, so you're saying that Mark Zuckerberg's trying to do harm? And they'd be like, no, like we're trying to say that like AI in general, unless you guys put some laws and regulations on this thing, it's going to make terrible things happen.
Exactly.
And not intentionally. And like,
and that, but it also is a symptom of the discourse now. It's like, who's the bad guy? It's like, there is no bad guy. I'm trying to tell you the monkey has the gun.
Oh,
like, and it's not about like, are you saying the monkey's going to wants to kill me, and it's like
Yeah.
I don't know what the monkey wants, but
Yeah.
whatever the monkey wants isn't what we would want. So
yeah,
like,
and a
it's-
monkey incentivized with a banana that like it can
Right.
only get by pulling the trigger. Like
yeah, I
this
mean,
is
yeah.
capitalism without
Right.
any like that's the issue. And like that's I know we all kind of I don't know, at least Gary, I know you and I are very politically similar in our viewpoints, where it's like I am personally a fan of capitalism, but I think that when there are monetary incentives that like don't align with the public good, that's where you need a policing system.
Right. I mean, I think everybody, it's kind of like
Yeah.
it's the Second Amendment thing. I think we all agree it's all about deciding where we're drawing the line.
Yes.
We're all for capitalism until people are choosing to, sell their kidneys on the free market.
Yeah,
then
like
it's like, no, wait,
Yeah.
or like donate an arm, or something crazy.
Yeah.
Like, then it's like, okay, hold on.
Mhm.
Like, it's just a matter of where are we drawing that line.
Yeah,
And
like
right now with the social media stuff, there are no meaningful lines.
Yeah, and I have to say, there's also the like part of me that's like a fan of science and exploration and stuff like that likes to see the line blurred and pushed in technological innovation, because it does lead to great things. But it is important to remember that every technological innovation throughout history ends up being used in war. It ends up being used in nefarious ways. And so the best of innovations can be really dark and have a real like negative impact. And I think that's what we were talking about. And I do have to kind of get us wrapped up. But I appreciate you guys getting in and getting deep, and I hope you had fun. I have weird streams, but I plan on them getting kind of weirder, because I actually really enjoy these like weird, uncomfortable conversations. It's fun to have them with artists while making art, which to me is like, it feels more like an art studio. The more it's like almost like we're not always talking about art, which I think is kind of a cool thing. I want to thank everybody who joined in the chats. Jake, I will happily have you back on, buddy. And it's weird seeing you like not during the night, being that Jake is usually the head of the night gang. But yeah, anyhow, Gary, we're gonna wrap. Frank, you gotta stop dropping these Nazi comments, man. I'm teasing, by the way.
What did we learn tonight, everybody? Frank is a huge fan of Nazis.
You guys, don't clip this. Oh no, I could totally see somebody clipping this out of context and canceling Frank.
I knew it.
And then Gary and I follow, where they're like, they were platforming and encouraging this.
Yeah, we were. We gave him a soapbox.
It's true.
Rant like the Aryan Superman he is. Like,
I love it so much. All right, so Frank, where can everybody find your banned books?
You can go on Etsy, Salazar Nation Comics, and you can pick up while supplies last Captain Goggles and Masculine issue 1 and issue 2. They're mini comics. Also, the standalone comic of Masked Woman's Field Journal. That's a 3-pack set. You can get it while supplies last. And I do have issue 3 in an ash can size that's going to be going up pretty soon on Etsy. And this wraps up the little storyline, but we're going to continue it with the graphic novel. So check that out, because once that graphic novel starts getting closer and closer to being produced, you might not see those mini comics in that form. I might reprint them later on, but we don't know when they're going to come back. So
how immoral of you, Frank, setting a perceived limited edition value there. All right, so Gary, where can everybody find your immoral, terrifying, horrible work?
Yeah, you can find my stuff. Check me out on YouTube. My account is just my name, Gary Hodges. You'll know you found me because the profile picture is a cartoony dinosaur eating an alien. And then you can find me on Instagram, Dinosaurs vs Marsbots.
Thanks, you guys. And thanks, Gary, also for being like kind of like a bit of a moderator at the beginning of this. And I think helping us find like a conclusion. I hope we never have to talk about NFTs again.
I can tell you're both dying to never talk about it again. Yeah.
But
I'm glad I could facilitate the conversation in a healthy, safe space, kind of like a couples counselor, just a little bit.
Yeah,
I think the most important
you saved our marriage. You saved our marriage.
Can do is, I think, have you considered like having a date night? Like a regular date night, maybe.
That's true. And I think I need to like really take out the trash more, because I think that's going to help his love language understand my more physical needs.
Corey, I think, would appreciate acts of kindness.
Yes. Yeah, all right. Thank you guys so much. It's been super fun. And like, I really get intellectually stimulated from these conversations too. And I appreciate you guys coming in and checking these out. Obviously, if you haven't yet pre-ordered Jacob's Apartment, make sure you're subscribed. You hit that bell, so when we're about to go live, you can join in. Also, I want to throw this out there, because like often like these conversations just stem from whatever we're going to talk about when we're working on art. And like, if you guys have something you'd like us to talk about as a topic, mention it in the comments section.
Throw it out there.
Yeah. So, and also while you're at it, support me by picking up 2 stories. So, all right, you guys, we will see you. I'll see you on the next live stream, which very well might be tonight. So who knows? I'm doing these things a lot now. So, and I also wanted to say thank you to Adam for like the restream and comments, because you contributed to the conversation too, where it gave me more ideas and more thoughts on it, which I think Gary and I are in a similar position where we're kind of, and Frank too, where we're trying to figure out how we feel about these things in the first place. So thank you guys, and have a good day. I was going to say night, because I'm used to night streams. All right.
See you guys later.
Bye.
Right. Bye. Stay courageous.